All right, well, let's call the meeting to order. I apologize for the delay. We're going to have a conversation, I guess, with this, whoever's in charge here. 'Cause we're supposed to be here the first and third Thursdays, and this is one of them. So we'll deal with that some other time. But meanwhile, let me hand out the agenda with copies of the relevant documents that are going to be taken up tonight.
I have copies already.
Well,
Copies of some
there are a
things.
couple people in the audience that
Right,
would
yeah.
probably like some.
And you also had them via email earlier in the week, but
Right.
that if we're going to be
I have some things, I'm not sure I have them.
fine.
Oh, you're going to take them down? Okay. Oh, I think I have everything.
Okay.
If I don't.
All right, first item on the agenda was the Ecotoilet draft RFP, which Mike had done it up, Matt had commented on it. Winn obviously wasn't around to comment on it. I sent back to Mike saying I wasn't going to comment at that time, and there it stopped. And so Steve didn't get it, so he didn't
I
get it.
didn't get it till sometime yesterday. It seemed like a
Right.
short window to push it out and everything, so.
So,
And when I got it by email, I didn't see it until
Yeah,
Right.
it just
11,
wasn't,
11 at night or whatever. It seemed like very, it should have gone out sooner, so.
well, I wasn't sure if we weren't putting it out because it was an RFP. You know,
no, it was intended to be.
The committee, I think the way we've got this up is the committees get once we get to the point where it's a real RFP, that we're not publishing it because
After we
it's
vote on
part
it.
of a procurement process, but we all get it to see it and pass it to the selectmen for their sign off as well,
all right.
Right.
so.
So in any event, I guess a motion to table that would be in order, and
So moved.
second?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I know that it's broken into phases, and my sense is that getting the 62 homes so that we prove to the DEP, or the data is collected for the DEP that's needed, would be the priority, correct? Okay. So is the RFP going to reflect that?
Yes, yeah, I'm glad you asked, because what we are enabling through the RFP is people, volunteers who, and this is largely due to Hilda's urging, volunteers who are ready to go will send either one of us or an intern will go to the home to see if it's, probably bring a plumber or something, to see if the home is immediately adaptable to an Ecotoilet, meaning does it have space in the basement for one of these containers, and then we'll put them through the program with Barnstable County Health and Environmental Department. So yeah, we did make that provision, and we'll just, if people are willing to and ready to go, we're going to try to get them through.
Has, we know that the memorandum of agreement was voted at the last meeting and then was forwarded to the selectmen, and they've approved it. Do you know what has happened at the county level yet?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I haven't been in touch with George. He hasn't. Yeah, so I don't know.
Okay.
Has it been reviewed by town council? I don't even know if Julian has signed off on it. I mean, I know they approved the concept of the MOU.
Oh, I
but
see.
the details sometimes,
Fair
I'm not
point.
even sure if the exact MOU was in front of them. So that might have fallen down. Whoever has the MOU, I can try to get it through the, Julian won't sign it, obviously, unless Frank says, you know.
Ah, okay,
But they've approved the signing one.
okay.
Sure. Since you did bring up this topic when people were talking about it, can I assume you will discuss it at the next meeting, that we'll discuss it? The Ecotoilet?
We should have we actually should have tabled it and moved it to the next.
Well, the motion was to table it,
I think the
and
motion
So
was
it
to
comes
table
up at the next
so-
one.
so far we're having a conversation,
And
but you
will
want to...
that be a real discussion? Or, I mean, at the last meeting, when we were talking about the little pond, people were upset that Ron brought up an objection to it and saying, well, we've already talked about this. But we've never talked about the Ecotoilet one. So will we have a substantive discussion of it before voting on it? Or is it expected to be a rubber stamp?
Well, Steve, it's not going to be a rubber stamp
Oh,
around
okay.
with this crowd.
All right, I just,
You know that.
rubber stamp
I
is too
think
strong a word, but I meant with the little pond,
The
it was
concern-
pointed out it had been discussed before.
The concern with the little pond was that basically an entirely new proposition was being put forth by way of a substitution of the entire language. That was the concern about that. I think the committee has always exercised the right to make small or even not so small changes in anything that comes before it, and we'll certainly be able to do that with this.
But also, Mr. Chairman, I have to disagree respectfully that we haven't had a chance to discuss the Ecotoilet concept in this meeting.
Well, we've
give a
already received it
presentation.
by email, so I'll study it way in advance of the meeting and be in touch with you.
Yeah, everybody
then-
should have it electronically as of
Right.
today.
And then
Right.
can we send you our comments?
Sure.
Are you going to have another subcommittee meeting to sort of fold those in? Or how?
Well,
He-
depending on if they're worth folding in or not.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
And if you have a subcommittee, is Winn going to be back?
Yes, Winn is supposed to be flying back in tonight, so our next meeting, I think,
Alright.
is scheduled for next
Yeah,
week.
I do.
So
Okay.
the motion to table, I guess,
printed it out.
is there a sense we want to modify
Yeah,
it
there's
to
not
table
much
it
to
to
it,
a
actually.
certain date, the
I just wanted to
31st?
reread one
Is
thing.
that what I heard?
Okay, yeah, there's only
I
one
think
thing I
that,
need.
yeah.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to take up the Ecotoilet draft RFP at the next meeting on the 31st. Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's a vote. Okay, road runoff. Now, in the handout I just gave you, that is the first thing on the list. It's called number 2, to reflect that it's number 2 on the agenda. That has come around to everybody and it's been posted on the website.
Yes. No, it's not posted on the website.
Not posted
No,
because it's an
because it's an
RFP. Right,
RFP.
right,
It's not
okay.
posted because it's an RFP.
Right, okay, but it's a 22-page document, and the Glen Law Office copier, I thought would be strained to do 22 pages times 10 copies, but I made copies of the scope of services section, which is the relevant part for our purposes. And we can take that up. Everybody has it in front of them? Or
Yep.
close, good?
Oh.
You
Jerry.
should know, the other committee, you have a code that you can go downtown and just copy it in town hall. I don't know what the code is, but you were supposed to have a
Right.
code so they'll know it's the committee and you keep it amongst yourselves.
I believe at one time you were going to get us a code, Jerry, and pass it along, and I don't know that you've done that.
The code is set up, I thought.
You could get the
So
code, you
I'll find the code.
get the
and
code
send
and
it
email it to me, and I'll distribute it around. That'd be
Good.
great.
That would be great.
Is this right? This is,
You got the right one.
okay. That's not, road runoff and storm,
Stormwater,
Okay.
road
it's the
runners,
same.
sort of thing.
Okay, same thing, okay.
Okay, so it's the page that says special conditions, scope of services, and talks about task 1 and task 2, all regarding the Little Pond watershed. Any comment, criticism, suggestions, amendments?
I have some comments.
Sure, Virginia.
Okay, so task 1 basically reviews existing information, which is logical. I don't quite understand under task C where it refers to an Appendix A and NPDES permits. I didn't know that we had any NPDES permits for.
They're general permits that are generally boilerplate, but I think, they are issued to the town. The town's liable for either the phase 1 or the phase 2. Pretty vanilla ice cream, but they're this thick and they're online.
Okay, but they're not site-specific. It's the town of Falmouth
Once
and
the
it's
town-
stormwater.
Once the town of Falmouth, from what I remember, is covered by it, and then the town of Falmouth has to come up with a series of steps, like identifying outfalls. They have to provide an annual report every year as to what they're doing. I'll go back to see if, there has to be something probably with the town of Falmouth on it, so.
I'm just wondering why it's listed here specifically for the stormwater for Little Pond, whether it's relevant or not.
Steve.
Jump in here.
Okay.
Jerry's basically got it right.
Okay,
There is a stormwater management program directed by the EPA through which they've issued these sort of, in the first phase, this is what's called, I think it's called phase 1 if I recall. They're almost like blanket things. They're saying you're a community that has stormwater and you are obligated to inventory your system, identify where your drains are, identify the characteristics of your drain and submit that information to us by a certain date. Then they go through and issue a phase 2 permit, like much like they do with a lot of their things. Like once they have all the information in front of them, they say, now that we know more, this is what we want you to do by time certain for the next thing. And it ultimately drives to water quality issues in certain places. Obviously, for communities that have combined sewers, those are sewers that
Yeah, but
drains that combine together.
we
The
don't.
EP, no, understand, the EPA has been more aggressive about pushing into the phase 2 and then the phase 3 stormwater stuff.
okay.
The town engineer, Peter, and I forget Peter's last name.
McConnelly.
McConnelly.
Huh? McConnelly?
McConaughey.
McConaughey actually has had some AmeriCorps people working with them, completing, I believe, the phase, I think it's the phase 1, might be the phase 2, but anyways, I mean, this gets down to whether or not the catch basin has a sump in it to catch grit. And their water quality criteria does not necessarily align with the water quality criteria that is driving the TMDLs. They're interested in
Sure.
other criteria beyond nitrogen they're focusing on. But the documentation of where the drains are and where runoff is coming from, the in-place structures, is supposed to be done and documented. And I believe the GIS systems have been created, but they've been going around verifying that the GIS systems are correct for the town of Falmouth. So anything we're doing with stormwater in any place probably has to coordinate and feedback through the town engineer's efforts under the NPDS permit,
Okay,
so that we don't work at opposite
okay.
goals.
So
That's, I think, why that language is there.
that's why it's there. Okay, although it does say phase 2, and you think this is phase 1.
I'm pretty sure the
MPDS.
town has to be by phase 1. They might have gotten some
Yeah.
comments in phase 1, so I think phase 2, I think phase 1 might be as simple as, here's where we think all our drains are.
I see.
And then phase 2 is verifying where all your drains are and the
Okay.
characteristics of the pipes and the depths of the pipes.
Okay, the other thing that's referenced here is town SNW TM, which I presume means town Stearns and Wheeler, and I have no idea what TM is. So all I'm saying is we're issuing a request for proposals here that references things that I'm not sure it should be referencing. So I just think we need,
Never been
Well, the February 12, 2012 memo
Oh.
is something that
definitely.
the DPW supplied
Right.
to this committee by
Right.
way of background as to their thoughts as to where we ought to go with this.
Was it S&W? I thought it was
I-
Peter McConaughey's work.
No, that was Peter McConaughey's work, the February.
Yes, I
February,
agree. I'm not
but-
sure what the S&W means.
I'm
So
not either.
maybe there's some extraneous stuff in here that isn't needed.
Maybe we should be more specific here and say, meet with the town engineer, gather
Right.
previous reports,
Yes,
summarize.
yeah,
Would that work?
that would work.
So is that, we can't amend this more than once, we have to gather all our
Right.
comments into one amendment?
No, we can deal with it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so that
Okay.
piece, we're gonna say meet with the town engineer.
Meet with the town engineer, okay.
Okay.
All right, and then D, compile maps and descriptions of recent and proposed stormwater management projects in the town.
No, it's
Why-
all about,
It's all about
Little Pond.
Little Pond, so I'm not sure D should be in there. I realized there was originally a more generic RFP, and I'm just wondering if some of the generic stuff didn't get called out.
take it out.
Okay, so I think D does others involved.
Everybody on board with that?
Yeah, I mean-
We'll keep going unless we hear
Between
objections.
paragraph B and C, I think we wind up with them defining what the stormwater systems around
Right.
Little Pond are.
Okay. Those were my questions. That's it.
Okay, then we get to task 2. By way of
But I have a question, Beth.
Yeah, by way of memory, this presentation was made by what's the?
Mike Vinegar?
No, the fellows from Barnstable, the
Oh,
the storm.
Horsley
Horsley
Witt.
and Witten, a couple of months ago, 3 months ago, Horsley and Witten came and gave a sort of a generic presentation on the kind of things you could do by way of dealing with stormwater runoff. And so that's essentially the direction that this consultant is taking, or proposing to take.
Yeah, well, no.
You evaluate each of these things and see which ones
I grabbed this one, Carol.
are most likely to be feasible and economical.
Oh, yeah, just to be clear about this, in under Part B there is one reference to it. It says, may apply to Little Pond watershed. Is that the entire watershed of Little Pond? All the way north to wherever it goes? How far up does it go?
Yes, that's it.
Unless we want to put the word, do we want it to apply to the whole watershed? Because you're right, the whole watershed is larger than,
I would say if we go over time, watershed by watershed, and look at how to improve stormwater as part of the program, we've got upper and lower. So this again is a small enough watershed. We're not, I don't think we're changing the scope of work significantly, Ron. I think we're better doing the whole watershed for stormwater.
No, it's fine. I'm just wondering, and then does that mean, if I look at the map, how far does it
there's a little
go?
pond.
It looks like it goes up to almost the base, right?
Oh, no,
Oh, no.
Little pond one's.
Little
just a
Pond
little
is
thing
A
there?
and B, and
Right.
it doesn't. And
Okay.
I didn't know whether we would need it.
good.
We know, excuse me for holding it this way. We know the lower Little Pond watershed is just the pond itself, and then the rest of it has Morse Pond and Jones Pond, and then Saul's Pond. So, yeah, that's it. So the question is whether we would add those 3 other ponds into this study or not.
Actually, if there's a reason, one reason not to would be that the water that's collected in that area goes into Falmouth Harbor.
But if this is a way of, this is why I was saying do the whole watershed, because I think by going through the stormwater exercise will help to better define whether or not we've got the right watershed boundaries. Nobody's gone on the ground and walked through and said, where does the water really drain to?
Really drain to.
On the surface, and then from where it drains to on the surface, we can then at some point maybe jump to the next step and say, since on the surface it doesn't seem to match the boundary on this, go back and say, we found this from the stormwater work, should you redraw your boundaries?
Okay. Mr. Finneran?
I know from owning a house on Mara Vista that that flows down the end of like Oak Street, Priscilla, or whatever, and it also flows through the golf driving range.
Yes.
Is there anything planned on as far as like one of those Horsley and Witten deals for that part of that?
Yep, that would be in the area we're talking about doing, yes.
So they would
Yeah, it goes up that far.
perhaps build something in there on the line of one of those Horsley and Witten things, and is that any part of the plans yet?
It's not part of the plans yet, because we're just trying to get a document out to advertise, to hire engineers to look at this.
To make that plan.
Right.
I guess to clarify, the RFP is not asking somebody to design anything yet, Mark. It's trying to say, taking this watershed and what the town's already done around drainage, if you will, look at it to figure out what's happening with the drainage, almost like micro drainage areas, if you will, what's going on, and what opportunities might exist. The next step of go into a place like you're talking about. No, it's okay, but it's good that you're thinking ahead. It's good you're thinking ahead, but then that would be obviously an opportunity area going forward, I would say.
Well, I'm a little confused. We're talking about the Little Pond watershed, but then I heard you say that some part of it drains into Falmouth Harbor.
The
Then
way
by
the-
definition, isn't it not the Little
The
Pond
way the
watershed?
map is drawn right now by the state
Right.
appears to the western side of the Little Pond watershed to not properly delineate the watershed boundaries. Okay?
Right.
So that, we
So
could either
then
go to them and
they
say,
redraw it correctly as part of the project.
I would hope that we get data coming back to us so we can go back and say, based upon what we see and where the pipes really are,
Right.
Please
That-
move your
that makes
boundaries.
sense. And
Well-
is that clearly called out for in the
Well,
RFP?
the point I was making was that those two ponds, to the extent the town collects street drainage and it goes into a collection system and gets piped away, it gets piped away to Falmouth Harbor and not to Little Pond. That doesn't mean that particular area isn't in the Little Pond watershed, it just means we have artificially diverted much of that water elsewhere.
And you have here some local knowledge that,
The groundwater,
The engineers may not be aware of.
the groundwater may be trying to go to Little
I hear
Pond.
you, yes, I
Right.
understand.
And the surface water, so
Yes.
I don't know that we've asked people to do that in here, but we're asking them to look at the stormwater. And obviously, when we get back their information about stormwater, if we lay it over here and the stormwater is going in a different direction than what
Well,
we're
what
being
what I
told
was
the groundwater
going
is
to
going.
suggest, to the extent we're asking them, as we should, to quantify the nitrogen removal, they should break it down by which estuary they're removing it from.
Well, ultimately,
Ultimately, yes.
I mean,
for the purposes of this study, if they find that all that drainage isn't going toward Little Pond, they'll stop right there and address things that do flow to Little
But
Pond.
Steve's making a point, and I think, if I can,
Sure.
what you're suggesting, Steve, and I think that maybe, I would assume that it's what somebody would do, but we haven't told them specifically to do it. So perhaps we should specifically say, under define, before we get to define additional stormwater management, where it says define current stormwater management information and programs under task 1, perhaps we should say, verify the direction verify the direction of stormwater within the Little Pond watershed.
or 2D, look at 2D.
I think on one, you're just identifying what's there. You know, if there's a lot of stormwater basins that they just go into the ground. And they're probably all up in the upper watershed. And the highway department probably has a list of every stormwater.
Right, but stormwater, but if I may,
Yeah.
the stormwater in this area is, very little of it's going to catch basins. And a lot of it's just going over the roadway and getting someplace. And the question is, the surface runoff is picking up atmospheric nitrogen, or nitrogen that people have put on their lawns. And the question is, which water body is it flowing to? So there is an exercise in here of whoever does this saying, define where the surface water is going to.
Okay.
Which,
Regardless of
so I think the thing is, define,
Right.
review the information, define where the surface water inside the defined Little Pond watershed is going, and provide a map to that.
This could actually help us more than we think on Little Pond, because if they're finding that a large piece of what is in the Little Pond watershed is in fact being drained into Falmouth Harbor, it no longer impacts Little Pond, and we've reduced some nitrogen for Little Pond.
But we're back to the Sentinel Station issue, which is, they're seeing a certain amount of nitrogen,
Yeah.
where is it coming from?
Right,
Right.
okay, fair enough.
Okay, but this is again, as we keep looking in any one area at another level of detail, gathering the information in a concise fashion and improving the underlying data sets should be done. We shouldn't lose that opportunity. So I think, Steve, you make a valid point. What do we do with that information? We should ask for that information in a clear fashion.
Right.
And that then,
You don't want them to come back and say, well, you just asked for the total, and it would be a lot more work to break it out into the separate parts.
That's happened before.
I'm not sure if you're a skeptic or a cynic, but we are one or the other right now.
All
Well,
right.
I want to make sure Ron Zweig's question was answered.
Well,
He
well-
said, are we talking about the lower Little Pond, or are we talking about the whole Little Pond watershed?
I was just saying, what are we talking about?
What are we
Right,
talking
right.
about? Okay,
Well,
all right.
Fair question. Okay.
So I think are we in agreement that when we ask for this study by an engineering company, they're going to identify stormwater discharges to water bodies within the entire watershed, not just the lower Little Pond watershed?
I believe it would be of value to do
You think
that.
it would be valuable?
Okay.
Exactly.
Are we on-
They have to study the whole Little Pond watershed
Right.
to satisfy DEP, right, and various things.
At some
And
point,
if, in the process of that, they find that some of it, because of man-made contrivances, is going to Falmouth Harbor, we should know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're all on board with upper and lower watershed being included.
Right, well, I mean, the thing is, that if we, I don't want to jump ahead, but if we look at task 2, the point about, what management could be installed to reduce nitrogen loads to Little Pond. So that is, that is a factor, coming back to Steve's point, so that they will be expected to focus on that
Yeah.
aspect, which is
Which
not what goes into Falmouth Harbor, but, you know.
But that's where I'd say we need to add either into task one or someplace early in here that they need to look at where the surface water runoff is going to and identify which watersheds they're draining to. And that when they're looking at controls, I guess for now, we're only asking them to get controls for that portion of the watershed that's going to Little Pond.
Right,
Right.
right, yeah, I mean, that's what town meeting asked us to do. It didn't want to get any bigger than Little Pond, so,
Mike put this together.
yes.
Yeah, he'll understand how to get watersheds perpendicular to the topography
Okay.
lines. People do it in freshman year in engineering.
Good, well, good,
All you need is the topography lines, and you'll be able to explain it pretty straightforward.
great. Okay, are we set with task one, and now that we've,
Do we have any language you want to put in here?
Define.
Or are we going to leave it to Mike to change it?
to upper and lower Little Pond watershed, would that be enough?
No, it's fine. Little Pond watershed is the whole thing.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right,
I-
yeah, Virginia's
This is-
actually
this is your
taking,
This is your subcommittee, but I will volunteer to try to help. I'll volunteer to write a short,
okay,
something defining it and
Perfect.
pass it, I'll pass it around to the committee and then it'll get cut in.
terrific,
So everyone will see it, in which, what I've got here is that the watershed equals all of the watershed, right?
Right.
We need a map of where the surface drainage goes,
Right.
okay? And then whatever the tasks, whatever over here, I don't have the task number, that we're only looking at options for a portion, right? That goes to a Little Pond.
right,
But you want them to identify all the infrastructure.
Right. So,
Sure.
And then they'll determine
Right.
where it drains to, or
Right.
if it's
Yeah.
right,
just a dry well going down.
right,
I'll work on it.
okay,
Can you call, I think.
okay, so task two,
I think.
task two focuses on just lower Little Pond.
Not
No.
quite.
Not quite.
No. Item C.
See?
Yeah, item C talks about the whole
Oh, it does
watershed
again.
again.
Well, but we want to say lower here, don't we?
Well, we wanna say-
Why?
I don't know. In A, we talk about 4 storm drain systems, which I think is what it was. There are 4 into Little Pond.
I think you want to keep everything with the whole watershed, because it's sufficiently complicated that it's part of their job to say where you draw the line of effectiveness.
Okay.
Thing is that with A, we're just talking about to reduce nitrogen loads to Little Pond only, which, and as we mentioned, some of those loads go into
Go into
Falmouth
other
Harbor or
things.
somewhere else. So,
Well, then, do you want to change it to say, to reduce nitrogen loads to all ponds within the watershed?
I think we got to stick to Little Pond. If nothing else, the town meeting vote was to do Little Pond, and it didn't talk
We've
about
got,
other
we've
water.
got, we've got sort of a,
We got mission creep here,
Well,
yeah, no, I know, that's why we have to be
yeah.
specific
That's true.
as much as we can.
maybe I'm not seeing how complex this is, but once somebody goes through and defines where the surface drainage is going to and/or where the pipes are going to and is delineated, the next step here is to look at, regardless of what part of the town we're in, what are things you can do to do a better job of stormwater. They're gonna work with what Peter's already started to put together. He's got there's some EPA recommendations. We've heard from one person who's recommending, a more green and sustainable way of going about that, creating some biomass to uptake some nitrogen and other things. So the question then becomes, if that's true, within the watershed, where's the opportunity to do that? And what would be an estimate of the nitrogen that might be removed by doing that for the entire watershed, So if we've been told before, on that nice little pie graph, that you've got so much of the nitrogen from the homes to be removed, but we're not talking about the nitrogen from the atmosphere because there's no plan to deal with stormwater. We're going into the atmospheric nitrogen component and dealing with stormwater.
No, I don't think you are. I think atmospheric is something separate from stormwater runoff. stormwater runoff is accounted for in the TM deals. And a lot of that nitrogen on the roads comes from combustion of automobile engines. Those are the deposits of nitrogen that you're getting on the road. So, you know, if you do have a significant component that's from stormwater runoff that you can control. And I think that's why they put it in the TM deals. I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right, absolutely right.
I guess I did the atmospheric nitrogen is the deposits coming out of the atmosphere from car emissions and other things that land on your pavement and on your roof. And when it rains, they get washed down.
No, I
That's
think
a
they're the
separate
ones
segment.
that land directly on the estuaries.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
rain and the air exchange directly.
No, you're right to a certain extent, but they separate that out and they say you can't, there's nothing we can do about it, so that's
They
why
say,
you
they,
gotta
say a lot, they say a
remove-
lot of things, and you didn't believe them on the first round of that stuff.
Well, that's why they say you have to remove 100% of the
Right.
wastewater component.
Right, but if we can go after another component, we reduce what we gotta do on the wastewater.
Exactly, but
But the
Well,
atmospheric
that's the
component that
other-
comes straight down on the estuary.
On the water.
On the water.
Yes.
There's
Can't
no-
Unless
do
you're
anything
gonna
about
build a
that.
tent over the
Can't do anything
estuary.
about
Can't do
Can't
about
do
it,
anything
but
about
they do count it as, it's an input that you can't do anything about.
They count it and we can't do anything.
Right.
You know, like,
Right, okay, I apologize, I did confuse the two slices in the
All right.
I always keep thinking about the number of roofs and driveways in addition to the pavement. And when it rains, that all runs, a lot of that area that runs off down people's driveways, down the road and into the pond.
it doesn't necessarily have to be via rain. It's just
Just from the air. Right.
atmosphere.
all right, let's get back to task 2
Doc.
and run through that and any language changes that we should make, I'd be happy to hear.
I just have another, maybe a way to think about this in a matrix type way. So task 1 might be what Steve's talking about, is the whole thing, watershed. And then within that, they'll be defining which areas are actually impacting Little Pond. So in task 2, we focus on Little Pond.
Yep.
And what can be done specifically to mitigate those impacts. So we need the whole picture so we know what's really going in there.
Right.
And then from that, we would focus on a plan to mitigate that.
Which is how it's currently written here for task A under task 2.
Well, task 2 goes back to the whole watershed in item C, which
Right,
is the next
but
page.
then it starts referencing Little Pond.
Yeah.
Eric,
Steve.
I hear what you're saying about mission creep, and I understand the desirability of avoiding that. But just to make my point with an absurd example, suppose one approach was to put storm sewers everywhere and connect them into the pipe that's going into Falmouth Harbor. That would reduce the input to Little Pond, but somehow some form of cheating.
You need a pipe to bore.
I mean, and then you know, when you're studying Falmouth Harbor Lake, you could throw the valve and run it all back to Little Pond. But, just being silly. So they have to at least speak to the fact that you've got a man-made sewer that's taken.
Okay, well, we did address that in part 1 here. They're gonna look at the whole shooting match, including the water that doesn't go to Little Pond. We're now on task 2, which is the water that's going into Little Pond, what do we do about it?
Right, and the point is in task 2, A and C are to some degree inconsistent. A talks only about lower Little Pond, even though it doesn't have the word lower in it. It only talks about the storm drains that go in specifically into Little Pond. Whereas C talks about the Little Pond watershed, which takes us back to the whole
All right,
picture.
well, let's make them consistent.
So we need to make them consistent.
Which way?
Add Little Pond watershed in A.
Is that what we want?
Watershed to Little Pond.
Identify additional stormwater that could be installed to reduce nitrogen loads to, okay, so it's Little Pond, well, actually, what you really want to say is any ponds within the Little Pond watershed.
No.
No?
No, because at least 2 of those ponds
Or?
drain into Falmouth Harbor.
Right, yeah,
Could I backtrack with
go
everybody
ahead.
for a minute?
Yep, what's your idea?
Well, under item 1D, which says compile maps and descriptions of recent and proposed stormwater management projects using existing town information as much as possible. I'd like to, this is, maybe it'll help, this is what we were talking about earlier. Define the direction of flow for surface water in the watershed, and define that area of the surface drainage that flows to Little Pond or into the Little Pond watershed. So that is what's flowing over the surface and going into the ground.
Okay,
Okay, so we've now said we have this amount of stormwater that's either soaking into the ground and going to Little Pond, or is running over the ground and going to Little Pond. We've asked them to define that.
Right.
Okay? What do we want to do next? Do we want to then tell them only look at the value of controls for that portion that flows overland into Little Pond? Or even the upper watershed is soaking into the ground? Is there any value for us to try to capture it into a place where there's more opportunity for biomass to uptake it? Retention basins upstream.
I mean, if it's underground already?
It's not underground
You're
until it soaks
still
into the
talking about
ground.
surface.
Right.
Falmouth Mall.
I thought at one time you were going to identify a suite of bioremediation project, options that probably could be put in a number of different places. And then I thought this committee was more concerned to try to put it on the lower watershed, but there may be some typical tools for bioremediation that might jump out and say, we could use this in the place that,
Teaticket Park.
yeah.
Wherever you have a big parking lot, we've got a lot of them in this watershed, you can put these kind of vegetated buffers or collection basins. So, and that's,
And it could be implemented over time.
yeah.
Which is what we're asking them to do, is to identify those kind of things
Right.
and where they'd be most effective. Is there any specific language change we want to have in task 2 here?
Maybe a small one, Eric, but item E, where it says develop preliminary sketches and design criteria for each project. I think it's each concept, right?
Good point. That's right.
I mean, we're using this word project a little bit in here, but we're not really asking to
Right.
identify projects so much, we're asking to identify
Right.
controls or opportunities.
That would be true in F too, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit through the thing, okay?
Right, yeah, these are not, right, if they
So-
want,
so-
if they
so-
want to install 2 dozen of something, we don't want 2 dozen sketches.
Yeah, so we have to want to revise project to concept,
Right,
right?
yep. Yep, concept. Okay.
Right.
Okay, any other amendments to section 2? All right, how about section 3? This should be easier.
yeah, prepare a draft of their final.
Maybe you could give us a little explanation on this EPA green infrastructure objectives and all of that.
I was going around trying to find out, Scott wasn't in it, to try to find out what that was, because those are the terms we either have a manual we reference to, or we should at least know what they are.
Yeah.
Could you put the word stormwater between EPA and phase 2? I think anybody, some respondents will know that, but just for clarity, it's EPA stormwater phase 2 general permit.
Yeah, we may be able to get some clarification and be able to eliminate phase 1 and 2. I mean, I don't know what Scott has now,
Yeah,
so it makes it clear.
okay,
In your technical assistance, I forgot when you're
Right.
backing up, you should say the state and EPA technical assistance, because they both may have opportunities to provide technical assistance.
Do we have dates for this delivery? I mean, is there a date that we need to put in there? Not that we put it in there
It's all
now.
boilerplate.
Yeah, it's all in the,
It's all in the
the
in terms
dates,
of reporting.
the dates fall out when the town eventually gets to the point of actually
Yeah.
advertising it.
Okay.
So
But it doesn't
I,
need to be here, right?
no, it doesn't need to be here.
Not in the scope, it's in,
Okay.
it's in the
Scope.
place about the timetable or
Right,
schedule.
right.
So I move that we,
okay, one more
just-
amendment.
oh,
We may need more than one meeting with DEP representatives, since since we probably want them to look at it before
2 meetings.
it happens and after it happens.
Yeah, that's a 2 meeting.
I'll give them two.
No, good. On the line up above that where it says summarize how the plan complies with EPA, that, we should flip there and say summarize the plan complies with EPA stormwater phase 2 general permit requirements,
Mhm.
right? And then say, and, because there's no requirement to comply with EPA green infrastructure objectives.
Right.
Okay,
No.
so you want to take that out?
No, I just want to say, summarize how the plan complies with EPA stormwater phase 2 general permit requirements, period.
Mhm.
You put EPA
Right.
/ state, because I think the state might have some stuff out there that may be duplicative. The state does not assume NPDES roles, so they may have requirements that go above and beyond EPA's. It gets into who's authorized to issue a discharge permit.
Yep.
And the state's not authorized, but they may have their own requirements.
Scratch the word EPA, stormwater phase 2 general permit requirements,
Fine,
okay?
Right.
okay,
Great.
Okay?
yeah,
And then identify how the plan,
Meets.
Satisfies it.
how the
Satisfied.
plan proceeds towards, or whatever.
Compliance.
There's not compliance. It's define the extent to which the program achieves EPA green initiative infrastructure objectives, something like that.
do we need that at all?
Well, I would have said no, except that if you remember at the workshop, one of the points that was made by Rob Adler was that we needed to have stormwater comments included,
Okay,
and the EPA
And I think this is a new,
green program.
a new thing for the EPA, pushing this green.
Yeah.
okay,
It may be more.
It is a fairly new program, and it's still in a lot of ways evolving.
Yeah.
And the example I give is LEED, which is, the thing about making buildings very highly energy efficient came out, never ever suddenly, we need to do this. And it turns out to be not impossible to do, and actually probably a good thing to do on what I would call a lot of sort of office building type things.
Mhm.
But if you try to do it to a wastewater pump station, it winds up with a very odd structure at the end, because you're going through a lot of hoops, because the rules they put together don't make a lot of sense, okay?
Okay.
For that structure,
okay.
okay?
So,
The green initiative infrastructure stuff is very nice, but we shouldn't say that we're going to achieve it.
right,
We're
just,
gonna work
just
towards it.
work towards it.
Okay.
So
It's
I
guidance.
move that we prepare draft 3 and then bring it back at the 31st, May 31st meeting
Okay,
for our next review.
there's a motion on the floor, seconded.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Done. All right, the next thing on our agenda is section ES6, estimated costs and financing plans. This is the draft that Virginia and others have been working on for the CWMP. Hopefully one of the last pieces.
Hopefully one of the last pieces.
And we've all had it emailed out quite a while ago. And Virginia, do you want to run through it? or-
Okay, Ron sent a number of comments, and so I want to fold those in as we sort of move through here. Starting with ES6, which was the master schedule that took us out to 2040, from present to 2040, but focused mainly on this particular decade between now and 2020. And I'm just, as I go through, we had them numbered, there were 16 steps. And so Ron, you made a comment about the first step,
Right.
that we listed it at 4.27 million. And you point out that that was actually 2 ballot votes, not one, and that one was dealing with repairs and not really part of the planning process. I agree with you. Actually, the way we originally had it was just the planning, and you were the one that wanted me to include the repairs, so that's how it got in. So
No, I've always asked to have it separated.
you want, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Sorry, yeah.
so-
It's
so
not-
let's-
The repairs aren't relevant.
The repairs aren't relevant.
To this. yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
So, so just so we're clear here,
Yeah,
number one would say 2.77 million for design demonstration projects, and then we would take out the word sewer repairs. Are you agreed? That's what you want?
yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Okay.
Design demonstration studies, I don't have my glasses.
That's on the top paragraph of the second page.
It's just great. Top paragraph,
Right.
second page.
Second
We now
page.
read Article 17 at town meeting and the ballot in spring 2011
Right.
that provided $2.77 million of excluded debt for planning, design of demonstration projects of permeable reactive barriers, inlet widening, eco-toilets, aquaculture, baseline monitoring of water quality, preliminary sewer design, some additional.
Strike some repairs of existing sewer system.
I did.
Okay.
I didn't say, I said preliminary sewer
Yep.
design,
Yep,
some additional MEP studies, and a draft CWMP for Oyster Pond watershed.
right.
Yeah,
And
And-
the table would be modified likewise so that the number is 2.77 million.
the listing here is, what was that listing? The listing of
I'm at the
items.
top of page 2, I'm at top of page 2 of 3.
Oh, page 2, okay.
Your
Page
All right.
comment was the first paragraph on page 2,
Yeah,
Right.
so that's where we're at.
okay, well, I know, but then you jump to the next page.
No, I read the first paragraph on the top of page 2, Article 17 of town meeting.
Right, oh, I see. Okay, well, the denitrifying
Oh,
onsite.
that's the next piece.
Oh, okay, yeah,
so
right, okay,
one
that's
thing
right.
at a time.
Yeah, well,
Okay. So your next point was on-site denitrifying systems need to be added to the list of demonstration projects. 2 points. They were not part of the motion, the green sheet,
oh, they are,
this.
they are. Look under the the 500,000
Yeah,
for eco toilets.
there's a phrase in there for it.
Is there? Okay. Oh, my oversight. Okay. So we will simply add that to the list then.
Yep.
So it should say eco toilets and
Well, eco toilets are, comma, denitrifying, on-site denitrifying.
on-site denitrifying.
Septic systems, yeah.
You are right. Yep. Okay. Great. I'm actually happy that that's there. I didn't realize it. Okay. Septic systems. Okay. Then you make a comment depending on the outcome of the lawsuit.
Yeah, I was.
TMDLs might not be applicable. That's speculation.
I have no idea what's coming. No, what I mean is that it was I read an analysis that said because of the non-point discharge, that suddenly this whole idea may come into question on the EPA side. Well, we'll discuss that later when we come to that other
Yeah.
memo.
Okay.
But anyway, that was just something that, when we see TMDL in here, I presume it's gonna be retained somehow, and the state may take it up or something, but there was something about the EPA issue. I don't know if I'm reading that right.
It's confusing, you're probably reading it right, but it has to be segmented,
I see.
paragraph by paragraph.
Okay, I don't know
Okay,
anything
well,
about it. All right,
moving-
don't worry about that now.
All right.
Yep.
So we're on page 2, moving on down. Your next comment is until the bottom of the paragraph, but just moving down. The third paragraph, if Falmouth decides to apply for a 0% SOF loan instead of the standard, so on and so forth.
Fourth paragraph.
Fourth paragraph.
Fourth paragraph, you're right. Land use control regulation that must be approved by Mass DEP, and we should have put in there, and EOCD.
Right.
It has to be approved by both of those
Is
agencies.
that the new name? I thought it was Department of...
Executive
We'll look
officer.
up the O'Leary bill, and they have the acronym.
Wait, okay,
Right.
could you put that on your to-do list?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're right, they keep changing the acronyms.
Housing and Community Development.
Yes.
Paragraph
Housing.
4.
Right.
Paragraph,
Executive Office of Housing and Community Development.
Executive Officer, Housing and
EOHCD.
Community. EOHCD, that's right.
Well, that's why I said that couldn't be EOC.
All right. And then moving to the next paragraph, which would be paragraph 5, third line, we talk about town meeting in April 2014. And it currently says Falmouth will have approximately $100 million in retiring debt. We should have said we'll have as much as $100 million in borrowing capacity, which can be used for construction and water quality projects.
Could you back up? Did you,
Yep.
when you're referring to section 5 of the O'Leary bill, it's land use plans in wastewater regulations. Did you have that in there? I know you just.
I don't have the O'Leary bill as such.
Well, that's what to get 0% loans.
Loan.
We need to comply, you know, the
That's
neutral
the section
flow.
10 that we were talking about.
Well, I think it's section 5. You have to have existing land use controls and wastewater regulations evaluated. Section 10 is all that boilerplate that we can, that we do or do not have to adopt. I'll send it to you.
Okay, but, so let's, one, two, three, four.
But this is meant to, this is like a description of why we have certain tasks.
Oh, okay.
That's scheduled.
Oh, that's right.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so the big picture that we have to do certain things if we're gonna go after this
Right.
is in there.
Right.
The specific
You're right.
nuances of every word doesn't have to be there. It's
Okay.
just a,
Yeah.
All right, so now we get to Ron's comment about the betterments. And Ron, you've said that the betterment should be voted in spring 2013, whereas we have it in spring 2014.
Well, it's mainly because if we're gonna be borrowing, asking for $9 million, then I guess we'll have to be paid back somehow. That will go into the betterment equation, right? As far as the cost of the system is concerned.
No,
No,
why?
no.
it's not for capital.
It's not?
It's for plans and designs and perhaps some capital, but unlikely to cover much sewer capital if there's any sewering in this package.
No, yeah, but what I mean is that it's, so this would be paid for out of just the property tax base without.
Without
borrowing
any-
or any,
Without any change in
and
the
that's
tax
different from
rate.
the 100 million, which would be
Borrowed money that you'd have to pay
Borrowed
back.
money.
Right.
to pay back.
Right.
Some of which
Right.
could be paid for with a betterment. None of that is
Right.
written in stone by any means.
Right,
but
right.
But the earlier piece would not be a betterment piece.
Right. The other reason, Ron, why it needs to be, the betterment needs to be spring 2014 and not 2013, is that in 2013, we're not going to have exact costs or even firm ballpark costs for what sewering would be. We will in 2014. So you can't go and say, what's it going to cost if you don't know what it's going to cost. So the betterment has to be part of the discussion in 2014 when you have information on which to decide what the impact would be if it were 60-40, 50-50,
Yeah, and-
90-10.
And you're just talking what I would call the traditional model here, Virginia, that says you're putting sewer in and applying betterments.
Right.
We've got a long way to go on things like eco-toilets or on-site denitrifying systems in terms of what's the process by one would do that, whether that's paid for by betterments or whether it's a fiat to the homeowners
Right.
to change what they've got and they have to pay the cost themselves. So we
Yep.
haven't, there's a fair amount of stuff to work out here. I mean, we're not even at that stage of saying, is this area gonna be sewered? Or is this area going to get on-site denitrifying systems, to use the latest thing we've been talking about? And what's the mechanism by which that happens? And what's the mechanism by which homeowners bear what percentage of those costs?
That's right. We may
We
end
have a
up
ways to go to get there.
not having betterments.
Right.
And I'm going to use the permeable reactive barrier as an example, because that services an area, but
Right.
you know, it's not like the sewer pipe runs down your street and if you abut it, you're in. With the permeable reactive barrier, you could draw the line of influence, you know, pretty fluffy.
Well, let's move away from the betterment
Okay.
issue at the moment. My concern really is that we intend somehow possibly to borrow up to $100 million in the spring of 2014.
Contingent on.
Well, contingent on a lot of things, but the point is that suddenly to come to town meeting with all this stuff, people may not, I just think that we need some advance awareness building to the public of options that are being considered under the program. Betterments might be one other thing, just so it can start to sink in, and that we're looking to minimize the costs and this kind of thing, and to have equity, because there's a lot of discussion now about,
Of course.
about social justice and this kind. So we somehow, I just feel that if we walk into town meeting and people are just gonna, you know, and there's been no real discussion of financing much ahead of time with town meeting or with the town. How we plan to do that is bringing that knowledge so they're not, you know, going to shock or go whatever, you know, suddenly.
Well,
If I-
we're obviously not going to do that. We're not going to walk into town meeting all of a sudden with betterments. There is a
Yeah.
long lead up to that. And it starts when you look at the blue schedule.
Yeah.
It starts
Okay.
early next year in 2013, and
Actually,
it runs through.
To be fair, it starts in June and July when we take this document to the selectmen and to the town and start explaining it then. That's the beginning of the conversation. We have a plan that we want the selectmen to endorse, and we want the public to know the details of it. And we'll start with that in June and July.
But the
Steve.
actual vote, I mean, you have to put an X. When should the vote be taken?
Right.
And realistically, in terms of, do we have the information so we're ready to make the vote? And do we take the vote in time to have all our requirements in line for the SRF loan? The X falls on the spring 2014 date.
Yeah, I'm just, go ahead.
Yeah, Steve.
Ken, I want to be sure. You raised, and I appreciate the fact that you raised some of these comments in advance. It's very helpful, by the way. But your first.
Well, I have to say something. I got off a plane Monday night, and I arrived at home around midnight on Monday. You sent out that document on the Tuesday before the last meeting around 11:50 a.m. when I crashed, okay? And I didn't wake up until Wednesday when I could finally get through this stuff. And so there wasn't really time.
No.
The gentleman has not stated a point of personal privilege.
Anyway,
But anyways,
okay, go ahead. So, but I appreciate
but
the compliment.
you raised the concern that votes on betterment should happen in the spring of 2013 to coincide with the vote of 9 million. I want to first off cover. I understand that there's $9 million of debt that will retire. That if we don't have, and the people who are doing the overall long-term financial plan for the town have said, we believe that is reasonable for you folks with what you've got to do and the importance to the town to come in with stuff that, for lack of a better word, adds up to 9 million. We have our homework to do to present the case that we're spending that money wisely. There is, as you point out, a lot of work for this committee to do between now and 2014 on, as Eric points out, what we've submitted to the state, where that might take us, and how we're going to borrow and pay back the money. So we have between now and spring meeting of 2014 to get a clear handle on what we intend, what we think the town should do as the wisest decision.
Are you gonna factor in that if you want legislative change to break the model on how betterments could be done, that you may need a year's lead-in time to make proposed, or you not want to discuss that now?
I don't think it's appropriate for right now.
Okay, all right.
You know, it's just, we're trying to get a piece together
Yes.
Okay.
for Nate to do
But
the
in due
CWMP.
time.
But
in due time.
it's in the mix, obviously, when we talk about
Right.
betterments and options, legislative change would be part of that
For lack of a
conversation.
better word, the whole buzzword of adaptive management and the fact that we have a schedule,
Yeah.
the schedule will constantly get added to and updated. As we learn
Yeah.
more about what we've got to do, we'll add it to the schedule and put timelines on it.
Okay, well.
All right,
let's-
yes,
keep
well,
going here.
okay, keep going. And so then you say that the last sentence of the paragraph at the bottom of this page is unclear. And the projects that will be constructed, there's a piece of information I think you
Right.
don't have, and that's something that Steve Rafferty has said several times, and Eric. The state only provides about 30 million a year.
Right.
Okay, so we figured 3 large projects, and I'm not saying each one is going to be 30 million, but the 3 large projects we have are the inlet widening, permeable reactive barriers, and lower Little Pond sewering. And so you're doing one of those projects each year and just sort of placeholders 30 million apiece. So if it makes it a little clearer, if we say the borrowing capacity is about 90 million, that 100 million was simply a placeholder dollar amount. So if we make it 90 million, then everybody can understand 30, 30, 30, 3 projects over 3 years.
Steve.
And just, I can add that,
Yeah.
it's also a two-sided thing. We've got what we want the town to understand the program might look like.
Right.
But when we submit this plan to the state and they review it, they will take information out of this plan and compile it with information out of other plans so they can be able to say, we expect the town of Falmouth is coming in looking for $30 million a year at these time periods, and they build
Right.
it into their budget and their finance projections as well.
But they're asking us to present a plan that reaches out through the whole decade. I mean, originally they wanted us to reach out to 2050. So we're trying to make it in a manageable bite, and we're trying to incorporate the demonstration projects with funding for their actual construction.
So, right, well, yeah, see, coming back again to my motion from last time.
Okay.
For the Little Pond area, you know, we're considering sewering, you know, it's an option, it's there. But we're talking like it's gonna be sewering right now. I mean, that's what you just said, basically. So,
Yep,
you know.
yep.
So, but it may turn out that if we do this kind of localized approach, decentralized approach, analysis, it may come out, it's different. So the point is that not to use that language, but just to say specifically what we're trying to do, what the objective is, which is to mitigate and attenuate the nitrogen coming out of that area, and that it may be that because of convenience, because of a lot of things, operating costs, whatever it may be, that sewering is the best option because of the previous concept, which Eric raises often, and the proximity to the sewer main. But it may be that in this day and age, because we're talking of an analysis that was done in the 1970s, that we are the original thing, right? Which is what we're building on.
I was wondering how far back you were reaching. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm just going back to what that was planned or discussed at that time, and that's what we're talking about with the same language. So I'm just saying that I think it should be more objective oriented than solution oriented at this point, and that it would be that area is a priority area, and it may be that it's sewered, or it may be that it's another option or other options.
Are you
may
talking
come
about
in.
the schedule right now, Lon?
I was just talking about what Virginia just said. She said, 30% for sewering, 30%. That was
30
what was
million,
it?
30 million.
30 million.
But
Yeah,
the
30
write-up
million.
write-up in front of us that we're trying to review
Yeah.
doesn't use the word sewers in that last paragraph.
Yeah, let's stick to the text, because
Right.
among other reasons,
Right.
nobody besides you and a couple of people here have the language you're speaking about.
Right.
So let's stick to the text. How would you change the text?
Let's see.
Strike the word construction.
Yeah, I think that's, well, the word,
No.
I would say, yeah.
PRBs would be construction.
SRF loans are for construction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's-
we do have someone who's held her hand up several
Okay.
times. So.
Okay,
Okay, hold up.
well, let me think. Yeah.
Hilda.
Couple of comments. Yeah, first of all, I was concerned when you happened to mention the 3 parts, 30, 30, 30 million. The Ecotoilets was not part of that.
It's not an SRF loan eligible item. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be a project on that, but for the state revolving fund, the criteria, I do not believe Ecotoilets is part of that.
I think they may be,
Yeah.
because they are eligible for the community septic management program, which is funded with SRF money.
And that
The
could
community
also be
septic
needed.
management program is funded with SRF money.
But that would, if I can, under the way the rules are sort of set up right now, and we're getting into parsing every last word in this, which kind of drives me nuts once in a while. So, This is text that goes along with the table that shows things that happen. This section of the text is trying to go to, on the schedule, there's a timeline for applying to the SRF for any project.
That's true.
Any project, doesn't matter whether it's a project to build a table, to build a driveway, or to build a septic system. There's a timeline to do that, and the schedule shows that timeline, and Falmouth's intention to go to the SRF folks for money, lining up with our intention to try to go get up to $100 million of borrowing capacity.
So all Matt is suggesting is drop the word construction. You could even replace it with the word implementation. Then you're covered for eco-toilets if that's what you happen to be doing.
If dropping construction makes
Is
everybody
our
happy,
eco-toilets not, our
that doesn't make a difference.
eco-toilets
Okay.
not construction? Our eco-toilets not construction? How do they get there?
It's an
Well, oysters aren't.
installation.
Oysters aren't construction.
The oysters are unlikely to be covered by the SRF regulations.
I think you had it right, when you said things eligible for SRF, because
Yeah.
that's right, that non-point source can be covered by SRF, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through to make it eligible, like who owns it, who manages it. And whether we set up the regulatory structure to say the town now owns these eco-toilets may be the decision on whether they're eligible, as opposed to a homeowner getting his own or her own grant.
But the point is, if you get rid of the word construction, who does it hurt? And it keeps Matt happy, so.
Okay, is that a motion? Is that
Yeah.
a motion? I hear a motion to take the word construction out. Is
So-
that seconded?
Second.
Okay, so for
Further
discussion,
on that?
it says the projects will take place or the
That's what it would, that's what
implementations
it, the projects would
Just
take
the
place.
projects.
Okay, are we, everybody
will
on board
take
with
place
that?
over a 3-year period.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay,
Okay, done.
all right,
Good.
What's
okay.
next?
Okay, then I don't think there was nothing on the third page. That was it for SES 6.
Okay, I had one.
Okay, go
So-
ahead.
Sorry to join the fray here, but
And yours
but
is?
back on the first page,
All right.
second paragraph, the sentence that says, as that excluded debt is paid off, new excluded debt of an equal amount can be issued after a 2/3 vote of town meeting and a 50% vote by
Ah.
ballot. It would have to be a majority vote by
Majority.
ballot.
Okay, got it.
50% we would lose
Majority. Yes, that's right. Okay.
and kick ourselves
And
forever.
that's- All right.
Majority.
Okay, I will incorporate those changes. You'll, can,
Wow. Any further
Yeah,
observations or suggestions before we wrap up ES 6-3? Fantastic.
well, you call
Okay.
for the vote?
Okay, well, why not let's have a vote on that then, as amended? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
There was just one more thing that I wanted to raise. That we made, the vote is fine, but
Okay.
just in thinking about this, that as we think about land application and the potential, as we voted last time, of an ocean outfall and all this kind of thing, where that fits in all of the planning, I haven't seen it yet incorporated in terms of how that permitting process would be done, and then maybe that's coming in the in that other table that I had trouble reading because it was so.
Is the permitting process for the on-site de-nitrifying system defined?
Maybe it should be. Maybe
Like,
it should be in here.
As we
Yeah.
keep developing more information, I'll say this again, every time we develop more information through the process, we should be updating the schedule and at various times, have a more updated schedule with more information about things like permits and timetables and everything
No,
else.
there's nothing about
All right.
outfall. Okay,
Okay.
there, you're right. There's nothing about outfall in here now.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I mean, we may not need it, but the thing is that I would say the effluent management thing, whatever, permit or something, whatever that takes.
It is in, as we remember, we did review the, I'm gonna call it, beefed up wording that John Waterbury helped us with. So it's described in the comprehensive wastewater management plan.
Right.
But there's no X for a timeline at this point in this timeline.
Okay, all right.
The timeline is very iffy for a number of these things.
Right.
And most of them depend on opportunities, politics,
Lawsuits.
lawsuits,
Yeah.
things like that that are really not in our control.
Yeah, Division of
The
Marine
state.
Fisheries. I mean, all these different interested
Yeah.
departments, coastal zone management. But I mean, this chart, which is very nicely prepared now with all the links and everything. I mean, and you know, 'cause you have to do this before you can do that kind of thing. So it's just, you know,
Yeah.
when do we get to that point of thinking that if we do go ahead with even improving the situation we have now with the plant, how we deal
Steve?
with that.
This, Ron,
Yeah.
is truly just an overview schedule.
Okay.
To the extent that we learn more at any time, you
You
can
can
get what's
change.
called a breakout schedule, which you could have a schedule for even Ecotoilets or anything that would have like a lot more bars
Yeah.
in it. At least in my understanding or my thinking of what the project or the process going forward looks like, there is a line that talks about engineering. We've talked about the process to select the engineer going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I would think our engineer going forward is looking at any issues about flow to the plant or disposal of flow at the plant. So I would not see that as a separate task right now. At some point in the future, when we get into engineering tasks, the issue of whether we're going to put beds or do whatever or modify the treatment process for taking additional flow or convey it to someplace else, if that's the path we go down, is falling more under the engineering right now as a placeholder on, you know, as a placeholder. I don't think it falls under reactive barriers. I don't think it falls under aquaculture. I don't think it falls under eco-toilets. I don't think it falls under oyster pond. There's a line item in there for engineering. I think it
No.
rolls up under engineering at that point.
And permitting usually is under engineering.
Well, there's permitting under every one of the other tasks, but
Well,
the issue is raised about the outfall
Yeah.
and what do you do with the effluent. I
But-
think it rolls up under effluent. Under
None
engineering.
of the others except the Ecotoilets need increased capacity at the plant.
But it's a little confusing because the town has already made decisions to swap land and do all this kind of stuff. And
What's confusing?
well, the confusing thing is that we haven't done an assessment. There's not even an environmental assessment of the site that was swapped. So what I'm saying is that actions are being taken, but we don't have, you know.
Well, you get one after the other, and presumably if you have a piece of land you could use, and
Yeah.
it seems appropriate, the next step would be the environmental review, which would take
Okay.
place after
You've already
after
funded
that.
environmental review for that. It's
Yeah.
a question of
Right.
how soon it will get done.
Right, which is, we've all discovered in municipal procurement
Okay.
is
But Eric,
a long process for the simplest thing.
you're right, it depends on lawsuits and a whole bunch of things that we can't control.
Yeah.
But it in turn controls things that we do. I mean, until you know what the capacity of the plant is and what's the marginal cost of using it to remove additional nitrogen, you can't make certain other decisions. The obvious one is an oyster pond, connecting to the force main
Right.
versus, say, some sort of denitrifying system. And that applies to many other estuaries
Right.
as well. So, since you can't know when it will happen, you can't put it in the schedule and expect it to happen at such and such a date. But we should at least admit that it matters. For instance, if it turned out there was some fantastic solution with the plant that made it very inexpensive, you could save money as soon as you did a preliminary cost estimate on certain other things and saw that they were more than that. There'd be no point to go into details because you knew they couldn't compete with that cheaper solution. And vice versa. If you, at the point you know it's impossible to expand it or it's very expensive, then all the cheaper approaches, even though they may have some undesirable aspects, then clearly have the advantage of being cheaper. But until you know about the plant, you don't know that.
I think
Right.
we know the capacity of the
Can-
treatment.
can-
Yeah,
The
Steve.
discharge, right?
I mean,
If I can clarify this,
Yeah.
I think you're articulating a point that is a good point. But just to clarify this, there is, at least for the near horizon, I'm going to use the 10 or 15-year horizon as the near horizon, there's no issue about treatment plant capacity. We're using less than half of the treatment plant's capacity right now. We know fairly quickly and easily what it costs to treat each gallon that gets to the treatment plant. So those numbers are there. They exist inside the reports that have already been done and everything else. That exists. The issue that's in front of us relative to wastewater and our treatment plant in West Falmouth
Is the treatment of the effluent, but that's what I mean,
Is-
the
is-
allowed
is the
capacity, what's the correct word if it's not capacity?
Discharge.
It's
Discharge of the
effluent.
Which
It's
in
effluent.
turn affects how much you can put in. And that may not be the correct term in the field, but it sure equals capacity in one sense.
Right, and I would say that when we get to the engineering exercises, that's an element of the engineering exercises going forward. What to do?
Right.
You know, do we go back to put it into groundwater injection wells at 151? We've seen those costs. Those costs are in the previous generation
Well, to the
report.
extent we're not making any big decisions for 10 years, if that's true, then I agree, it doesn't matter because you'll probably have the answer on the plant by then.
Well, we need the answer on the plant before 10 years, because if you're gonna add any capacity at all, any inflow at all to that plant, you have to have an answer for where the outflow is gonna go.
Right.
So that is, it's a question the town is facing at the moment.
Yeah, if I can one more time, maybe the question is the committee this is a sense of the committee type question. I believe that engineering covers things like looking at sewer design if we're going that path, looking at what we're going to do about the effluent disposal if we're going to put more flow to the treatment plant, but that's under engineering. That's how I see it. That's one way to look at it. We've got a task in there and a timeline. Alternatively, we could split apart into two separate tasks. One to say, what do you do with effluent? And have that as a whole separate line in here, a whole separate element of what we're going to do, and have a whole nother separate element for doing sewer design. But if we don't do sewer design or take flow out of a watershed to the sewer plant, we don't have to really approach the effluent item.
Oh, I see, so you're covering it by saying that this is such
subset.
a large, distant overview with
At this point in time,
not a fine scale, that whole issue is hidden within a single block.
it's,
So we don't need to
I'm
worry
saying it's
about
within
it.
engineering. If we need to be more clear that engineering, including, put a phrase someplace in the text that says, about engineering, including, effluent disposal evaluations or whatever, then we can do that.
I have another suggestion that maybe might work. If you look at your blue and white timetable, which is more the mini steps we've been talking about, what Steve has been saying is in the subset of engineering services, which is that first white block. But the next blue block, I put in various efforts that the town needs to engage in. One is fertilizer development, one is land use control development, and you will notice that there is a blank line, number 23. Doesn't have anything in it right now, it was simply a break. We could put in there, evaluate discharge options. And then, obviously, the,
I know, I thought we had it in somewhere else.
no, it is in the other list, it's not in this list. So if you want to elevate the discussion on the outfall, then we do have we have a line here we haven't used, and we could put it in there.
Are we
I
for
just
that?
offer that as a
Well,
different
I would
idea.
say feasibility of discharge options.
Evaluate feasibility of discharge options.
Fine, okay,
Does
is
that
everybody good with that?
work for everybody? So that sort of puts it on the radar screen, and
That brings us up to 50 things on the radar screen.
that's 50, which is, and I really don't want to spill over
Maybe
into
all
another.
take your vitamin every day.
So it's an existing line 23. We need to put a start date on it, and so I would just say July when this is all going to the selectmen, so we could
Start
say
now.
July.
Start now.
Start now, okay, and then just make it stretch out over
Till solved.
2 years till solved. That's another alternative. Otherwise, I do basically
Yep.
agree with Steve that it's a subset of the engineering, but if you want to highlight it, this is one way to do it.
I think people were happy with that. You want to do that? All aboard?
Is it, I mean, this would be done with the 9 million then, right? So it would sort of start around that time.
This
Is that right? Is
isn't
that-
necessarily the 9 million.
Oh.
These are all the
Okay,
things, this is
okay.
the work we have to do.
Okay, all right.
And it would be blue. So this second blue block is sort of a collection of different efforts that the town has to be working on.
Okay, we've heard that language. Is there a motion to adopt line 23
Okay.
as presented?
Evaluate feasibility of discharge options.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Got it.
Okay, so we're now on the blue and white timetable, which is ES7. This is technically labeled Project Completion and Implementation Timetable. You've seen it many times. So at this point, I just have Ron's questions, which the first one is when will the draft CWMP be available for review? And the answer is, we've given GHD a deadline, and it is
June 21st.
June 21st, right?
Yeah, I
There's a
think,
date in here of it going to the selectmen on June 28th?
No,
Oh,
I think what
July 9th.
Virginia was going to propose is
okay.
that we have a special meeting of our own on June 28th
I
to
see.
take up that one and only topic.
I see,
Because
okay.
we will have had a week to look at the draft and to talk about it.
Okay.
And then after the 28th, we then send whatever the end result is to the selectmen.
Okay.
Okay, date for hiring the engineering consultant by November appears too soon, since the funding for the work will not be voted until spring 2013.
Is that the right
No.
thing?
No.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
The engineering company that we will be hiring this summer is being done for two reasons. GHD is the planning consultant, that's the engineer of record now, and their job is done with the end of the draft CWMP. You need design and construction engineering, I'm sure GHD will apply, but that's the process we're going through. And we already have the funding for the engineering that they will start to do. That's the 500,000
Okay.
that's in
All right.
here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's not tied to the vote next year.
All right, so-
It's already on board.
Okay. So would that be limited to that, within that 500, or would there also be the Air Force funding that may be used for that, or do we know?
There's no, I mean, we haven't suggested using Air
Okay.
Force
No.
money, and that's a selectman's
Right,
discretion.
right. I just didn't know the
Do you
scope.
think we need more than $500,000 for engineering?
I don't know. You should tell me.
No, I just,
I have no idea. I mean, you're an engineer. I mean, you're this kind of engineer. So, I mean,
Well, the short answer is
Yeah.
we haven't contemplated asking the selectmen for AFSCME money. We intend to use the money that's in the appropriation that we
fine,
already
okay.
have.
Right.
okay, that's fine. I just did, yeah, fine, okay. I wasn't sure. Now I see where that's coming from. Okay, good. Okay.
Okay, so that answers that issue. Then you asked, what is the current status of the fertilizer bylaw? It's,
Well, we
Go
will
ahead.
have something for the fall town meeting. We don't have it yet. It may
Do we
not,
have somebody working, who's working on that?
myself and Winn.
Oh, okay,
right.
We've chased a few options down, and we'll chase more when he comes back.
okay.
But
Right.
we'll have something for the fall town meeting.
But what, doesn't it have to be like, after a town meeting, usually it's, when do you have to get it on the warrant?
About September.
September, and that's what's in the schedule,
Yeah.
By September,
by
Right,
September,
for the November meeting?
right,
Okay, well, fine.
right.
What else?
Okay, then you suggest changing of the third sentence, this is ES 7.7, which is the inlet widening, and you suggested adding the words, need to mitigate nitrogen loading from within the watershed would be reduced in meeting the nitrogen TMDLs. I thought those additions were fine.
Okay. The reason I raised that is that in a discussion I had with Brian Howes, he said that when he came up with, like where he says 100% of the septic load needs to be removed,
Right.
it doesn't mean removing the septic load. It means removing that much nitrogen,
And
right?
we
So that's why.
we understand
Yeah,
that.
okay.
It's all about pounds of nitrogen.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Right. Okay, so I will incorporate that wording. Then your next comment was ES 7.8, unclear why several years of performance data will be required. This is on the Ecotoilets.
Yeah.
That's what George Hoyfelter said. He said 2 to 3 years. I can say 2 to 3.
Hilda,
No, he even said that if the data that come out from the gray water research are pretty much in the same realm, and say they have 30 toilets, and all of them come back with about the same data, say 10 per milligrams per liter, then he said then the research is done, we don't have to go on. If it's widely spread all over the place, then we might either need more households or a longer study.
well, he said it could be less than 3 years if
It
they
could
all
be
came.
less-
He certainly
could be a
didn't say 1 year.
Could be, yeah.
No, he definitely, and this is, he's in reference to discussions with DEP. If the data from the first 10 are, in other words, that's why we may not have to put in 61 test sites. If the data for the first 10 or 15 or 30 come in relatively the same, for the gray water, the nitrogen in the gray water, then they'll say, that, well, that pretty much settles it. We don't have to go on to the.
But he would have to do it at least a year, so that you went through all the
Yeah,
seasons.
but not
and-
3
and-
years.
Not 3, okay, so
Well,
maybe I should say
Can I-
2 years?
Up to 3 years?
Can I recommend a change?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Start the sentence off by saying,
This is performance data.
start the sentence off by saying, DEP requires performance data. Scratch out the phrase over several years as needed and replace it with acceptable to the DEP so that the sentence reads, DEP requires performance data acceptable to the DEP to prove their effectiveness and to measure the amount of nitrogen remaining in the gray water.
I think it's redundant. You can drop the first part and just say, performance data are needed, acceptable to the DEP to prove their effectiveness, right?
Right.
You've done DEP a couple of times,
Yeah.
so I
Okay.
think just performance data are needed, acceptable to DEP to prove their effectiveness. I don't know, I didn't say the DEP thing, I just said drop the years. But,
Yeah, you can shorten it up.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but let's not spend
All
all
right.
day
Yeah, okay,
rewriting
that's
it.
fine, yeah, right.
Performance data are needed, acceptable to DEP,
Yeah,
to prove their effectiveness.
right.
Right?
Okay.
Hilda, comment on that?
Just a clarification, the seasons don't make any difference for a composting toilet. It would only make a difference if there are more or fewer or more people in the household, and therefore there might be more nitrogen in the gray water because there are summer, winter people.
Fair enough, but that doesn't affect this sentence.
So
It
later in
was
this,
just to clarify something that Virginia said.
Yeah, okay, I hear you.
so what I'm hearing you say is that the line that says that data will be collected in 2013, 2014, and 2015 should say data will be collected in 2013, and the project will then be evaluated as to cost effectiveness. So we don't have to wait, by the end of 2013, we will have put enough in, gathered enough data, know what the DEP wants, and can make a decision.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And if they want
Okay.
more, they'll ask for more, so.
So the this first part of the project will be happening between now and 2013, at which point we will have enough information to make a decision.
Actually, we could drop that sentence, data will be collected.
No, I like the fact that it's gonna be done quickly, so let's leave
Okay.
it in there. If
Okay,
it's not
all
gonna
right,
take
okay.
3 years, which is
Yeah.
what we thought it took, and it's gonna take 1 year to collect the data, then we should say the data will be collected. That's what we believe. If that's what we believe, that's what we should put in there.
Okay.
You're saying the end of 2013.
Right.
I just leave it, the data will be collected in 2013,
Yeah,
and then the project will then be evaluated as to cost and effectiveness.
Okay,
Whatever date you put in, the DEP requirement will govern.
Yeah.
right. All right, so that took care of 7.7, 7.8. Now we have 7.9, which is on-site denitrifying project. And what is written is show nitrogen removal is greater than 80%. And you want that changed to 80 to 97%.
I think it's 97. Now, I mean, if over 80 could say 100, and I don't think it's 100.
No, it's not 100.
So it's not 100. So there's a
But,
limit.
but 97 is greater than 80, so factually,
Yeah, I would say, well, I was just trying to say, what's been demonstrated by the county, which I think has been, in
Up
some
to
cases.
97, is that correct?
I think the only one that hits 90%
Yeah.
Okay.
is
Yeah,
the nitrates.
Where's this
Yeah.
97
Why
coming
why do
from?
we need
I
the
thought I
exact
read,
number?
I thought
in
I
this
had seen
document?
it. No, what?
Well,
Okay, well, if there's no 97 out there, let's not pursue that.
We're
No,
not-
put that, drop 97, but yeah, I would say, well, whatever. I mean, you can leave it as it is. I'm just thinking
Good,
that.
let's leave it as it is.
Okay.
that,
We gotta get
uh,
moving here.
leave it there. Okay. And
And then the last line there in that,
on-site denitrifying septic systems could be a complement to on-site eco-toilets. Yeah, I think that's a good, I had written alternative, but I think that's a good
Complement.
correction. So,
On-site D-nit could be a compliment.
could be a complement
So it sort of
to,
implies you have them both on the same
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, I
Oh.
don't think that's gonna happen.
No,
okay.
no, why would you want both in the same
You'd be
property?
too weak.
Let's give one a chance. Why did you want to use the word compliment, Ron?
oh, because I mean, as an alternative means that, that it
It'll
would
be on a
replace
menu of
eco-toilets. It would
choices.
change, yeah. I'm trying to say,
Oh.
in other words, you could have eco-toilets, you could have
Oh, so
the,
it's a choice.
Yeah,
it's a
so it's an
choice.
alternative.
Can we strike the whole sentence? Does it mean anything?
I think it's important, a lot of people are talking about eco-toilets, but a lot of people are also saying, I can't see that at my site. But then you say, well, there are also denitrifying systems that end up with the same amount of nitrogen reduction, and people say, oh, well,
Might I make a suggestion then?
go ahead.
Every one of these paragraphs starts off by saying Article 17 of the spring 2011
Yes.
annual town meeting.
Right,
So perhaps you should start off by saying Article 17 of that provided $500,000. When you go back to ES 78,
yeah,
it says, investigate the option of using eco-toilets
and denitrifying,
and denitrifying, whatever.
that's a good point.
So you should
Yep.
clean up ES
Yep.
78
7-9, you mean.
per what Ron pointed out for how that line was done, and do the same thing under the denitrifying. So it's clear that they fit together.
Okay, I'll take care of that.
You comfortable with that one,
yeah, no, that's fine.
Matt?
Okay,
Everybody good?
no,
Here's, and I haven't absorbed this, but you're not saying that we're going to do denitrifying septic systems with a $500,000 demonstration line? Okay, I just want to know.
just
But it's in the budget, and Article 17 is in the budget.
Yeah, but
I think what we were planning to do, if anything, was to do an analysis of the existing 1,500 systems on Cape Cod, not necessarily.
Who's we?
We as the town would do an analysis of the county data, then,
Oh, I thought of the ones at the testing site.
they monitor all these things. There's some
Right.
things they don't monitor, like cost and
Right.
monitoring and,
If I can. Matt brings up a good point here.
Yeah.
The way the article was originally, the article, of course, is this blanket article, and then we've created these budgets based upon some other informational sheet that accompanied Article 17. The language around the 500,000 encompasses the denitrifying.
right.
So the $500,000 budget, or the $500,000 that was passed out there, included on-site denitrifying.
Right.
Because basically that $500,000 was for things you can do on your property
Right.
that don't require anything else. So the issue in front of us here is when you say "we," Ron, my
Yeah.
point, I'm not gonna go look up all this data and write a report, and I don't think,
No, we may ask the county to do it or
Actually,
whatever.
our new
but-
staff person, who we'll talk about if we ever get to that
Yeah.
part of the agenda.
but to the extent, Ron, that there is any money to be spent
Yeah,
on that, it's gotta come from someplace.
right, and that's the line,
And so it's gotta come out of the 500,000.
right. But it's pretty theoretical right now, but
But I just wanna be-
it's a goal that we intend to pursue.
I'm trying to get to find, because Matt, you were starting down the path of, you don't wanna split up the eco-toilet money.
I don't want to start putting in denitrifying septic systems as part of the demonstration project, because we know they're expensive. We know they're expensive. You might get to put in
Right.
10 of them, but we also know that they work by virtue of
Right.
they're being tested at.
I don't think anybody's suggesting that we should start installing denitrifying septic systems.
No.
Just wanted
The
to-
biggest effort we might make and will make is to take what's out in George's place
Right.
in terms of what works and work out what it costs to put them in the ground and develop the values accordingly, right? I mean,
And then
Perfect.
offer them on a menu.
Yeah, but I mean, I would just say that when it comes to things like an on-site denitrifying system, there's a range of issues as to how, you know, that we have a lot of different sized lots, and, you know, what
Sure,
does that
yeah,
look like?
right.
How will you do it? And
Right.
so somebody's gonna have to work through all of that stuff. That's
fair
work.
enough, fair enough, I understand. And they're on the list.
I spoke with Brian Dudley today about this specific thing,
Okay,
and he said that what the county's doing is not necessarily everything DEP would require in terms of analysis like costs and this kind of thing.
right.
So I said, well, what we need then is a checklist. We need to know what DEP needs for this kind of thing, and then we figure out
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Okay.
Just for the board's edification, or the committee's edification, DEP is holding a meeting on eco-toilets next Friday, not this coming Friday, but next Friday. And it's to discuss these kind of criteria. And I know the chairman wants to get
Yeah,
going, so.
we have a project to finish tonight and a whole list of things to get into after that. I don't want to keep people as late as we sometimes do, so
Right.
maybe we could get back to the text here.
Yeah.
Well-
Any changes to the text beyond what we've done now?
Okay, Ron made one more comment, which was to ES 7.11, which has to do with sewering for Lower Little Pond watershed. You gave a lot of opinions, and, you know, we can.
I know, but
We can,
didn't I give any language? I don't know.
and then you did, yes, you
No.
then said you want to replace the third, fourth, and fifth sentences. What this description does right now is lay out the process for what, if Lower Little Pond were sewered, this is the area it would cover, this is where the collected wastewater would go into the main plant, and then, I'm sorry, the main line, and then it would go to West Falmouth. It would be placed outside the West Falmouth watershed, and you need to develop this information in order to apply for an SRF loan. And then it takes it through the key votes. So, I mean, you might want something else to happen, a particular person might want something else to happen, but this is what needs to happen if one is going to sewer Lower Little Pond.
Okay.
So I don't see how we can change it.
Let's see, what, maybe there's just a... Okay, then just one sentence here. It says, it is necessary to remove 100% of the nitrogen in this watershed in order to meet TMDL, the TMDL for Little Pond.
Yes, for the Lower Little Pond, that's an MEP flat-out statement.
No, I know, but 100% of the nitrogen, what about the leaves on the trees and
Of the
all
removal
the, of the...
It's
so
the
does-
massive nitrogen from septic.
This is the septic equivalent of the septic, because if our,
Right.
Right.
if our stormwater thing works out,
Right, I think it's understood when we're talking about 100% of the nitrogen, you're talking about from the home septic system.
but it doesn't say that though.
No, you want to say that?
Okay, all right.
100% equivalent.
Equivalent, or
Equivalent.
equivalent, right.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
They're not, yeah, that's all.
So I'm sticking the word equivalent in.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's see, yeah. I guess of the septic nitrogen
Necessary to
discharge.
remove the equivalent of
Sure.
100%.
There's a phrase in all the reports for that.
100% of the
Equivalent is
septic,
good.
nitrogen.
Of the septic
Equivalent.
flow,
Septic,
Yeah, septic.
or input.
right,
Okay,
Okay, sorry.
okay.
Okay, so clear.
okay.
I was getting tired when I wrote that.
That's all I have. That's all I've received in terms
Okay.
of feedback.
Good. Anybody else have any feedback on this section?
Other than complimenting Virginia for struggling through writing this.
Yes,
You're welcome.
yes, yes.
Very succinct.
She
It
thought
takes
she
a while.
had retired, but she's found a full-time job here.
You
Right.
didn't apply yet for the second.
No, I didn't.
That would be a reduction in her hours.
It was. All right, with those amendments and with the addition to item 23, which evaluation of feasibility of discharge options, which will then be a section added to here, I think we're ready to say, you know, that we will have a finished product that we can give to Nate when he comes on the 31st.
Do you want to vote on that final piece?
I would love it.
Do I hear a motion?
I move.
Okay, moved and seconded to adopt it as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. We're done.
Okay,
With that,
there's that.
now, we have,
This next one's quick.
yes, one page, one sentence.
Oh, let's see. All right, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. As the draft CWMP currently stands, there is virtually no mention of denitrifying septic technologies. They were screened out in 2007. They were reviewed, and I brought the document. And there's this very long table,
Yeah.
and it ranks them as to whether the state approves them or provisionally approves them. But when you get to the actual text that's going to go to the state, it's silent. So I thought that we have to do something to raise the visibility about denitrifying septic systems.
Right.
So I looked at their text, and they have this series of bullets, and they get to decentralized treatments and anything that is currently allowed by Mass DEP. So I suggested we add one sentence, and this is the document that I sent to everybody, that says, test data from several newer denitrifying technologies show nitrogen removals greater than 80%. DEP approval for general use will be investigated by this committee. So that we put it on our work list.
Okay, this is something Ron's been proposing for a while. It's a good idea.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay, so it'll be a motion to add this sentence, and we would give this
Okay.
to Nate and say this has to show up in the report that he's
Right.
working on.
Okay, hear that motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We got it.
Good find,
Thank you.
Virginia.
Yes. Yes, it really, this has been a mammoth task. I mean,
Yeah.
some people get paid $1.5 million to do this.
That's true.
All right, let's go run through our update list. We have quite a number of things here. Selectmen's actions on the RFP, the MOUs, and technical staff, and the intern. Last Monday, we went, Jerry and I, and actually some of you came, but we were so speedy, you missed the action. We presented the RFPs, the MOU, and the selectmen adopted it without any dissent at all, and with a fair amount of support exhibited. Technical staff person, the ad has actually run. The deadline for applications is May 23rd, I believe.
23rd, 24th, whatever the deadline is.
23rd,
yeah.
it said in the ad. So we'll find out then who has applied and take it from there.
Do we know how many people have shown interest?
How many so far?
I think one so far, well, one sent me an email, I don't know what may be in the admin.
Okay. The enterprise will have a story, I think, and that may
Technical
provoke some interest.
assistant.
So we'll
Is that
see.
what we're calling it?
Okay, the intern,
Yeah, the ad was for somebody for
But-
20 hours.
15 or 20 hours a week, 15 I think it ended
Well,
up.
I think it depends on what the committee, we have
Yeah.
so much money.
Right.
You
What-
can spend
what-
it in the first month if you wanted
Right,
to.
Yeah.
but it's basically a part-time position,
Right,
and it's providing support to this committee
right. And
That
to,
particular
and to-
hourly
and-
rate.
and-
Jerry, right.
to Jerry.
Yeah, the hourly rate is specified, everything else
Hourly
is
rate
flexible.
specified.
That's right.
No. And applications are due by the midpoint of next
Right.
week for the ad and the enterprise.
Right. The intern piece, there was some upping and downing on that. The commission, the Cape Cod Commission is now agreeing that they can fund an intern for a portion of the week. And we'll figure that part out as we go. But bottom line is it has not expired. It just found a new route to, I think they'll give a grant to CDM Hill or whatever, who is having an intern come anyway, and they'll part of that will help pay that intern to work for us. So, well, stay tuned on that. Matt's been pushing very hard for this, and it's been a circuitous effort. B, scheduling vendors for step, STEG, vacuum, and grinder systems. These are all options within the sewering option. And Jerry?
Right now, we're shooting for June 21st, because the 7th, one of the technology vendors couldn't make it. And we decided that we want them all on the same night to wrap it up rather than, so stay tuned. I think they'll all be here, but I only have one commitment so far.
Okay. This is information purposes, just to educate the committee.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And
But
if
here's where it gets confusing. Somebody thought that we're gonna take all these people up to Gloucester.
Oh, no.
oh, no.
They're gonna meet us here, and then
No.
there's a road trip to Gloucester to look at some of these
Yeah, let me
technologies later
explain
on.
the Gloucester half.
Yeah.
Gloucester is the only town in the state that has a step steg installed that we know of. And it also has I talked to the DPW head up there last week. They also have a grinder system installed. And they also, the town next door, Newburyport, has a vacuum system installed. So I think if we wanted to devote a day to it, we could actually visit places that had all of these systems in operation and have had them for a while, so we could get a really good handle on the pros and the cons of all of them in operation.
I just point out that saying that Gloucester is next door to Newport is like saying Falmouth is next door to Norfolk.
Well, 45 minutes
I
away.
was-
Oh,
It should not be done in 2 trips.
North-
I've been in 2
no-
trips. It's a very nice drive between them.
North of Boston someplace.
It's a very nice drive along the backside of the Essex River and the salt marshes. It's very
Right.
pretty.
Just a question on this. I mean, my understanding is that Gloucester is basically solid rock.
A portion of it is.
they went to-
So is it?
That's why they went to step
It's right next
steg.
to,
No,
it's right
no,
next
no.
to Rockport. That might be a clue.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
so,
Marblehead?
now the question then comes in like,
As opposed to Sandwich, Marshall.
no, looking at them there versus looking at them in kind of our glacial.
Well, they're the only
alluvial-
place in Massachusetts that has it,
Has them, okay.
so.
If we wanted to see what one of these systems look like, what an actual installation looks like, that's the place to go right now.
We could go locally if you want air vac, because Hyannis has one in Provincetown.
Well, that would,
Newtown.
for the vacuum, you're right, but for
Yeah, yeah.
for step steg, it's a lot.
That's right, and for grinders, we have some right here in Falmouth. Well, the E1 pumps.
Okay. Well, in any event, there will be a road trip for anybody who wants to go, and we'll set that up.
Just as a kind of an interesting thing, ecological engineering had something called bio something, has a wastewater treatment right up in that area, greenhouse.
We can visit them too.
You know, I mean, I'll have to look at it,
Yeah.
it's a medical thing, but it's a campus and they have a greenhouse and the system is a wastewater treatment thing for that facility, which is
Let's find out where
several
that
hundred.
is. If it's nearby, we'll keep going.
It's
Just as a quick-
it's in Peabody maybe, I don't know.
I think Virginia, I think if people want a review of a step steg, I think in that November report, Nate's got several pages and diagrams of step stegs,
Right.
all GHD,
right.
SW.
This is the alternatives screening report.
Right,
So
so-
they were required to list and discuss.
In the fact sheets and drawings.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
It's
So
good
it's
information
good
on
background, and this was dated November 2007.
Yeah, Steve.
The road trip would be after the presentation here? I
Right.
think that makes sense.
Yes,
Yes.
it does, right. Maybe when these folks come, we could distribute reprints of that section of the old CWMP so that everybody's up to speed on at least what that said.
Okay.
I think,
That's all posted on the old page, isn't it?
I think I can just download it and email it to you.
Okay, well, that would be fine
Yeah.
too. Yeah, but just so everybody has it ahead of time, that'd be good. Any further comments or questions on that topic?
It's June 21st, right? So, yeah.
Right.
Tentatively right now.
Tentatively, okay.
Hopefully
Right.
they'll be available.
So Nate will be bringing the copies of the draft CWMP to that meeting, and just, it's not a topic of discussion that night, but that's the night we'll get them.
Correct.
Right. Okay, inlet widening, proposed meeting with Conservation Commission. As you remember, the inlet widening piece had kind of been put on the shelf for a while because the county sent a proposal up to the state that would involve shortening the review process at that level. So we kind of waited for a while to see how that was going, and what we're finding is it's not going as smoothly as they might have expected. So we thought, you know, we want to move this piece forward because it's an important piece, and so the thought was it might be a good idea to have someone who's expert in the field come and do a presentation or a joint meeting with us and the Concom to eke out their issues on this ahead of time so that we're not surprising ourselves later on by finding unexpected issues that hadn't been addressed. So,
That's a good idea.
so we're going to ask the Conservation Commission for a time more of a workshop I mean, it's not going to be a public hearing or anything, it'll be a workshop open to the public. But I think the idea would be just to have a conversation, let them know what the MVP plan had laid out as the viability of this option, and get their feedback.
Does the chair have a time that we think this might be happening? Is
Not-
it in July, June?
You know, the chair would really like to keep
July.
August empty, if that's okay with everybody. So if it isn't in July, it'll be in September.
They say September's a
enough.
better on-water month, Eric.
Well, maybe October. But we're not going to keep this breakneck pace up all summer, I can tell you that, because none of us will want to do that.
Yeah. But I think, if I can, to the extent that we are, the next step, once the ENF goes someplace, is to turn around and say we want to retain or get somebody to do the next piece of that.
Right.
Scoping what we're retaining that person to
Good
do is
forward.
going to be driven to a large extent by a number of outside factors that might surface up by the MIPA, but to a large extent what the local Concom wants.
That's right.
Most definitely.
Maybe the next big hurdle. So doing a kind of pre-meeting and getting their senses and concerns
Right,
will help us to define the scope better.
right.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, shellfish propagation. The 1986 SMAST report surfaced about a week or so ago, and Steve sent it around, and
Sent it around, just a couple of folks did some work back then, and they raised a couple of bags of oysters in Little Pond, tended to by a group of 5 or 6 people. They also put some in Green Pond, and they put some in a third location,
Oyster Pond.
Oyster Pond,
in Oyster Pond.
Yes.
where they did
And-
the work.
And they discovered that the oysters grew better and did the best in Little Pond at that time. So
terrific.
the other update is that the request for the viability testing for this year is incorporated in the overall town's 2012 shellfish propagation request, the Division of Marine Fisheries. There's no response back yet on that. I sent a polite email out yesterday or
Wow.
late the night before, and gently remind them that, we'd like to do this in June because we can get seed, and so we missed the first batch of seed in April. Now we're waiting on the Division of Marine Fisheries, and that's all I know, other than you didn't talk with anybody.
No, I didn't call, no, I figured your email rather than.
Are they likely to be prompt, or are they going to try and sort of slow roll this?
I don't want to speak for anybody else in the town that might know more about the Division of Marine Fisheries and what else is in the 2012 shellfish propagation
Fish
package, but
Okay.
um,
They came to a meeting, they were interested.
Yeah, they were-
they-
yeah.
Facilitating, they're
Yeah.
not,
Okay.
yeah,
That's
things have
good.
been moving along. It's just we thought that they would give. I think Chuck thought in his first request that they would just say you can go do that. But they
Right.
suggested that be all part of the 2012 shellfish propagation, as
I
I
see.
understand it. Which Chuck did fill out the paperwork, submitted it. It's over there, and you would expect that they sign off on it and turn it around here shortly.
Okay.
I just want to bring to your attention too that the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe did a shellfish nitrogen study along with Brian House, and they received an EPA Merit Award for it. And it sounds like exactly the same thing. We're trying to find out how much nitrogen they're able to remove from their saltwater ponds, and they were very successful.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and make a contact and a date when Steve and I and anybody else can, Ron, if you want to go.
Yeah.
Did they keep going with it?
Yeah, they're going to keep it going. They want to expand it to like 10 million oysters. And they figure that would eliminate the need for sewering.
I talked to Rick York about this a while ago, and apparently, I mean, he calculates he measures the nitrogen taken up by the oysters, but I haven't seen the data on, like, he apparently has data too on water quality changes, but I haven't been
Yeah,
able to see that. Yeah,
I'll set something up with Rick,
Right,
and maybe
okay.
we can.
That'd be good.
Great. Yeah, Mashpee's ahead of us on this, the tribe and the town.
Yeah.
Proposed meeting with the Community Preservation Committee, May 24th. This arose out of the town meeting debate on their proposed affordable housing project, where a number of folks suggested that they hadn't looked deeply enough at alternatives. And after that debate, I contacted the chairman over there and said, we have been talking about sewers and non-sewers and alternatives for quite a long time, and we'd be happy to share our thoughts with you at a meeting. And he invited us to the May 24th meeting. Any members who want to go, and any non-members who want to go?
I just want to point out that I believe that's the same night as the Board of Health meeting on the windmills.
Oh my God, you're right. Well, you won't be at this then.
Maybe I will.
Maybe you'd be wise to. Good point. All right.
Because I want to be at both, because I was here after town meeting
Right.
when they spoke on it, and
Well, I'm sure you can go to the
they didn't
Community
have-
Preservation Committee, and when you get out, come over to the other one. We'll still be there.
That's right.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah,
But
so-
I mean, they're interested. They really didn't appear to be too behind the idea at all at the meeting that I attended. As a matter of fact, the words on Peter Clark were, "You can't expect anybody to use one of those."
Well, that's why the interchange of ideas might be a good, appropriate to do.
Is it confirmed that we're on their agenda, or is it
Yeah.
just, oh, okay.
You have a time? What is it,
It's
7
right here.
o'clock?
They meet at 7 here, whenever we don't.
There, you know,
Thurs-
there were
Thursday,
other factors too that were mentioned, I think in town meeting. One was the cost and how that would affect the affordable housing levels and this kind
Right.
of thing. They're limited, and then
Yeah.
there was the notion that apparently they, about if the pipe goes by another development or something, if it's not a force main, then do they have to hook up? And then there was, a third thing was the operating, the long-term operation, because it's to be managed by the developer, and whether the developer may disappear at some point, and
Right.
whether that would then come to the town for expense. So these are.
They have their issues,
Yeah.
but I think learning about the options that we've been looking at would be helpful to them.
Mm.
So,
Okay, yeah, no, it's good.
We were also under the impression that they didn't work. And I mean.
What didn't work?
And
Any of the alternatives at all?
well, Hilda should go and talk to them.
Yeah, somebody's gonna have to.
Everybody bathroom smells a whole lot better than anyone else's.
get 'em-
Well, we'll leave that alone.
No, that's their worry. They always think that that's like our
All right.
house.
Well, the 24th, they'd be happy to hear from us and you on this subject.
And I would figure that it would be a wide-ranging discussion, that
Yeah.
all the different things that we have been discussing would be part of what we tell them.
What time of day?
7.
So-
Yeah, that's true. If nothing else, if we do end up sewering that section, it would be smart of them to know that, as opposed to spending $400,000 to run a pipe in the opposite direction
Right.
of their own.
But they also need to know what the sense of timetable is. They may have,
You may want to ask if they want to move it up to 6 o'clock, given, it's plenty of time for them to change their meeting time, so it doesn't conflict as much with the public hearing on wind turbines.
Okay. We can do that. Proposed meeting with Brian Howes. Okay. We had been talking about baseline monitoring. At the last conversation, it sort of focused on the premise that the most likely candidate for that would be the SMAST people, since they had been doing all the prior monitoring for the last 10 years, and that their numbers and their way of doing it had clearly been acceptable to the DEP. So the request was that we invite Brian to come here and lay out what kind of a proposal they would make if they were going to do the baseline monitoring for us, for the town, in the future. And he will be here on the 31st to do that.
And will you invite Brian Dudley too?
Sure.
Because it's going to be, could be slightly different now that we're into compliance and sentinel stations and things like that, but it shouldn't be significantly.
Okay.
okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
The Coalition for Buzzards Bay has a very extensive monitoring program.
Yep.
I think they get the MDL to do their actual analysis
Yep.
for them.
Yep.
We might ask them to give a bid.
Well, right, they're the only other game in town. The problem with them is they don't do Vineyard Sound,
Well, no, it isn't just that. It's that they only do it in the summer.
and only in the summer.
Right. So that's another factor. So I've talked to them
Yeah.
about another proposal I prepared to get involved about how to do with MBL, but it's
Right.
limited to the summer months only. So it's
For Oyster Pond, we collect the samples ourselves, and they're analyzed for us by the Woods Hole Research Center. And when we were trying to cut costs, we investigated the MBL lab that does the work for the Buzzards Bay Coalition. And they did not want to do any extra work at any reasonable price. I don't know if that would,
No.
this group may have more clout than OPEC.
Actually, the Barnstable County Board of Health, George Hoyfelder does a lot of that analysis too. Very affordably, yeah.
Right.
Right. Well, I think we need to find out from Brian what he would consider to be the normal protocol or the standard protocol or the minimum amount that would need to be collected in terms of what type of data and what species, nitrogen or so on, and what stations, so that it's consistent with the information that he has collected in the past.
Yeah,
And
I
then
agree.
we can decide who's actually going to do that work.
Yeah, after we hear from them, we'll make
Yeah,
a decision on the next
I
step
hope
in the
Right.
it's clear, because we really need to know at what points at what locations did he collect his data that ultimately led to him setting the TMDLs. There was a consistent pattern of data collection over a period of time. It's just that it was done in 2005 and 2006, so it was a long time ago.
But ultimately, it's also going to depend on where and when our demonstration projects are, right? And our final implementations.
We're ultimately going to need to decide which ponds we want this monitoring done in. And that ties, I'm agreeing with you because the demonstrations will be in various different ponds. And I don't know whether we need baseline data for all of the ponds. We certainly need it for Little Pond. And Green Pond is the,
Yeah, I think realistically, we need it for all the ponds in the CWMP area.
you didn't even include a Walk Point, even though we're,
Right.
Well,
Not-
but for instance,
I'm
if
not-
one of them is not going to have final implementation for 25 years, there's no point getting your baseline 20 years ahead of time.
Well, though, if we're going to do any demonstration project in any one of them, we'll want to
Yeah.
know what was
Right,
there
but if there
before
was a
that,
pond
before and
where
after.
where you were not
We're
doing
not.
a demonstration.
All right, well, then maybe we could skip
Yeah.
that one. But you know, I think we are talking about spreading this thing around over the course of time.
And if a PRB was going to be on a
Oh,
certain
it's up for
segment
discussion.
of shoreline,
Yeah,
you want, my guess is you would want to measure
right.
right offshore of that.
Or each side of the PRB.
Right.
Fair enough. Well, we can talk
okay,
about this
but we
with
clearly
Brian.
have quite a bit to talk to Brian about. And
Right.
that's going to be a very full meeting on the 31st because that's also the report from Nate Weeks on Little Pond.
And you want to do the
And
Ecotoilet.
it's eco
And the
toilets.
Eco-Toilet.
Yes.
All right, the
Well-
agenda- I got the agenda done.
Stop right
Don't have
there.
it
Time is
anymore.
breakfast.
Oh, man.
Well, it just has to be.
Okay, anything else? West Falmouth Treatment Plant Permit Appeal Status.
So you skipped one.
Oh, whoop, I did?
G.
Oh, yes. Oh, you know what? I think the era of good feeling having arrived, I don't think we need to talk about it anymore, except as a general policy, I think coming in with large pieces of information that everybody hasn't had a chance to look at isn't a good idea, and I think we all agree on that. So I'm not going to beat that horse.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just want to, not to go back to that, but in looking at the open meeting law, I mean, it could be that we put something on the agenda, as has happened recently with the Board of Health thing, a major thing happened where there was a letter on the agenda and suddenly it turned into something else. Well, the thing is that with that, it is feasible that somebody, whether they have the, can come and talk about things and related to the agenda items. And for us, as much as possible, the understanding should be, I think, that a committee can get input from anyone on the committee or in town or wherever in advance, it's better, clearly. Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
what we're all agreeing on.
Yeah.
I think that's, but what he's saying is true, and even when we were selectmen, we tried not to have a vote that night. If you had something new, you'd let it
Right.
carry over to the next meeting so
Yeah.
people could come in and
Exactly.
comment
Yeah.
on it, if you have something that's so
Yeah, and just only because
controversial.
I think there might be a misrepresentation. The Board of Health only really, they had a discussion about what we could have as our
I never
options.
mentioned the Board of Health.
He did. I just want to clarify this. And what we decided that was that we could do certain things, and we decided we would set up a meeting specifically to address a topic. And that, so what we basically did is we set an agenda for a special meeting.
Right,
Okay,
right.
we didn't really discuss anything at that meeting relative to that topic. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, I
So
mean,
it's
that's.
not, we didn't have a discussion about something that was not on the agenda. We had a discussion about set an agenda for a special meeting.
Okay.
Much like
All
we're
right.
talking about eco toilets and water quality monitoring right now. But maybe
Okay.
not as much interest.
All right. West Falmouth Treatment Plant Permit Appeal Status.
We hope we're close, but we hope we were close a month ago.
Right.
In the meantime, the plant runs well.
Yes. No, I think we're closer than we've ever been. Now people are
Yeah.
going on vacation, so it should have taken a day, might take a week.
Right. And we've learned a few things about our plant, which is a couple of years ago, it was being criticized for not being terribly efficient, and it is now performing at a level that is as good as any in the state.
Oh, that's nice to know.
Yeah, the SBR plant, we get, the Board of Health gets the
Yeah,
monthly
you get-
records and they're consistent. I mean, basically, there's something called, for lack of a better word, it's the nitrogen you can't get out. Okay?
Right.
And that number's like,
Soluble, whatever.
50% of what they put out. So, it's down small numbers. It's always under 3 and sometimes it's even under 2, which is always kind of amazing that they got a number below 2 in the winter, but slightly mild winter, and they've been running it really well. I think the operations crew has got it figured out up there.
Yeah, things happen with treatment plants.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We'll take the credit now because the
Yeah, you
bullets
took-
will come later.
Now, you took the blame when it was up, you can take the credit when it's down. Budget status, this is one of Virginia's other projects.
Okay, I'm just gonna pass these out, and there are a couple extra for the audience.
Wait, we skipped another item. Wait, we skipped another item.
You didn't want to give an update on the conservation law foundation,
Oh, yeah.
CDB, EPA law.
Okay, yeah, all right, you want that. Conservation laws in August 2010 sued EPA with their friends and colleagues at the Buzzards Bay Coalition, arguing that the EPA had misread the law and that in fact it was in charge of ameliorating non-point sources wherever they could be found, including everybody's backyard septic tank and most street drains. The case from August until now, it was basically a matter of confidential mediation between the parties. The commission, Cape Cod Commission, hired a very expensive environmental lawyer who sent a letter saying that they had no case against the county, but that the county would be very much interested in participating in whatever they were doing. So they were invited to participate in the conversations for a while and then left a few months ago. The conversations continued up until about a month ago. The report back was that an agreement was imminent, and about 2 weeks ago, a report came back that an agreement was not being reached. And so as of the 21st of this month, the judge told them, come in with a schedule for trial. So that,
In the interim, Congressman Micah sent EPA a pointed letter. I
Yes.
think that's maybe what, and that letter came back and said, no, maybe.
yeah.
I mean, if you want to go over that.
Yeah, the congressmen these are Republican congressmen and senators from different states, but they wrote
Yeah.
to the head of the EPA saying, is it your position that you are in charge of these non-point sources? And is it your position that you can tell the
Right.
state of Massachusetts that it has to make everybody do something expensive to fix them? And the EPA wrote back and sort of said, no, but.
I think the operative thing is, and it's been around for at least 20 years, EPA will take jurisdiction if you can prove a hydrologic connection.
Yeah, that was the phrase.
And for scientists, you'll say, of course, there's a hydrologic connection. But for lawyers, they'll want to say, I want you to prove that nitrogen from our treatment plant is the same nitrogen that goes out. It might be illogical to normal humans, but for lawyers and regulators, it's an enormous difference. EPA has regulated some non-point sources where there was a proven hydrologic connection. That has been around for 20 years. So that's why I said, EPA said, no, 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 maybe, if you can prove a hydrologic connection.
Right.
Well, but that's what the MEP reports are all based on, that connection, right? Kind of, it's not proving it.
They can prove it affects surface water.
Steve, I think
Affects the surface water.
I did email to all members of the board
Right.
a copy of the letter
Yeah.
of
No, I read
To
it.
my-
Yeah.
It's incredibly complicated.
Well,
But it comes down to what's the definition of a hydrologic connection?
You have to
Yes.
look at the footnote on page 1, where they define the 4 or 5 locations where they have actually issued a permit
Right.
for what they consider to be a direct connection. The one that's easiest to explain right now to everybody is there's a big mining operation
Yes.
that discharges everything from their mining operation to a series of lagoons. And then those lagoons discharge through the ground, if you will, not very long distance, into a body of water. And they're required to maintain a certain level of treatment for what they put into that lagoon. Okay.
And the company processes molybdenum, so
So it's easy to
it's
trace.
easy to trace.
But it would be easy to trace a few sample septic systems.
Yeah, well,
In other words, what I'm getting
Wow.
at is it, are you saying that they'll really only come after you if you're a mining company?
No, no.
Or that if they were pressed by the Buzzards Bay Coalition and they put a radioactive tracer in somebody's septic tank and found it in West Falmouth Harbor, that they'd say,
7 years
aha,
yeah,
yeah, 7 years later,
Yeah.
that we proved it.
yeah.
Well, they're also doing DNA tests, caffeine tests. They can figure out where this stuff comes from.
I think as much as this is fascinating,
Right.
the positions of both parties have been very clear from the start. Eric did a good job of articulating that they start off by saying, we don't think you got a case here, but we'll talk. They've stopped talking. Now we'll find out if they have a case.
Right,
Well said, let's move on.
Yeah.
okay,
And then it will be appealed.
Yeah,
right.
right, so it'll go on forever and lawyers will get rich.
Okay,
Okay,
well, let's pass this around.
so the next.
Except for our lawyer here.
That's right.
It needs to go that way?
Some more.
Eric labeled this budget static.
The budget.
We have so many things going on that I figured we needed
Oh,
to
we have
begin
this
to have
already,
some checklist to keep track of things. So I used Article 17 as my starting point. I put everything in alphabetical order, and with the dollar amounts from Article 17. But I also put in items that are on our radar screen, even if they don't have a dollar amount. Excuse me, from Article 17. Then the next column says budget would be the amount that we're saying, the dollars that we've agreed are going to be applied to a particular topic. And then whether we've actually committed those or it was just a discussion, and then ultimately expended. And then the last columns are when did we actually vote to move an RFP forward or memorandum of understanding or whatever the key vote is out of our committee, and when, because we're just doing a recommendation, when did it finally get to the Board of Selectmen, and then comments. So that's the format going across. The topics going down are the baseline monitoring, which we've just covered tonight, and we'll hear from Brian House. The Bournes Pond Inlet widening, we're waiting for environmental notification comments, and we may ultimately talk to the Conservation Commission. De-nitrifying septic systems, just a placeholder now. We don't have a committee for this. We don't have a plan of action, but we know that it's important. Disposal options that was mentioned a little earlier today, and that wasn't on the blue and white outline. I had put it in here, and so now it's on both. The Ecotoilets I put in 2 separate sections because in Article 17 there actually were 2 separate fundings. The residential picture was the $500,000, but the municipal picture, theoretically at a beach, doesn't necessarily have to be the beach, but that's what we said, was 150,000. So since those were broken out, they're listed here. The fertilizer bylaw, we know we have to have that ready by the fall. MEP studies, that's SMAST and Brian House again, and there we have committed a fair amount of the money, but not all that was in the article. Oyster Pond CWMP has already emerged as a request for proposals and been approved by the Selectmen. The next entry that we'll need here is when do the Selectmen actually advertise it, and then we'll have a timetable for that. The same for the permeable reactive barriers. A request for proposals has been approved, but hasn't been advertised yet. The road runoff we worked on tonight. The sewer design, specifically for sort of the overview, we've already hired GHD and amended their contract, and they'll be reporting to us at the end of this month. The Shellfish demonstration, again, you have an approved RFP, but it hasn't been advertised yet. The staff, as we noted earlier, is under hire, and we have $15,000 initially committed to that. And then the last item here is the water bill insert. It's been discussed. It stopped as an idea when we learned that we had to have a telephone number on it if anything gets inserted into the water bills. This committee needs to make a decision, and since we're not going to meet in August, we need to do this work in June and July. Ray Jack says that we need 21,000 flyers, and that he would need to have those in hand by September 30th to go into the bills for the fall. Obviously, you could have another whack at it the following May. So if we don't do it in this fall, and we haven't discussed what the content of this flyer might be, but this is just to sort of have in one sheet all of the different things we're doing.
Any comments or questions?
Good summary.
I think it's, it's very, very nicely put together.
Thank you.
I just have just a comment, and that
Sure.
is that when I look at item G here,
G?
On the updates, this sort of just came to us. It's a big deal, but it's okay. We can manage it. So I'm just saying that this is something that we could have had in advance, but we have it now, which is fine. But I'm just trying to be clear about
Right.
about the thing.
I think the
Yeah.
distinction was this is not something to be voted on. It's just informational at this point.
Right, and
Oh, so if it's informational, it's okay.
Informational we're happy to have, but if it's something people are voting on, they ought to see it ahead of time. I think.
Okay.
That seem like a fair distinction?
That's a fair distinction.
It would be nice, though, to get things ahead of time and distribute them, so I appreciate that. Some things get put together at the last minute.
yes,
I appreciate.
I ran out of time.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I appreciate that
Looks like
we
you
have this.
dragged up a printer from the basement too. Where'd you get?
Did Ray indicate that he might accept an email rather than a telephone? You know, when you put in the insert, he doesn't want everybody calling up.
Right.
And
The
the
water
initial
department.
thing was a phone line.
Would you check?
I can check, but I wasn't at the meeting, and I don't know if you,
It didn't
I'm
come up.
almost, from talking to the very nice lady who unfortunately... I forgot
Kathy.
her name.
Marks.
Right. It's very clear that they want a phone number.
Okay.
And I think what Ray Jack said the other day also made that clear, because there are a lot of people that, if there's a problem, they want to use the phone. And they don't want it to be the water department phone.
Right, that's fair.
No, I think that's, you can discuss it later. That could be problematic no matter how we do it.
Fair enough.
And it's about $1,000, and that includes the printing and everything.
No, I'm talking about who's answering the phone.
Right.
We can get a phone line if it's a new person. We can
Maybe we
discuss
should
it.
just
Sure,
get an
we just have to
answer.
have a phone number.
Who's gonna answer it?
Well,
No,
the
they-
only thing is a phone number.
Depends on what
Touche.
country.
555.
Depends on what country it goes to.
Just get an answering service.
let's-
And
Yeah,
let's
in which
hold this-
country?
hold
Okay.
this discussion for another day. We got things to do here.
Sorry.
Answer it, sir.
and then you call back the ones.
Let me just skip over K for a second and move on to I, which is, we talked earlier about adding June 28th for the sole purpose of reviewing Nate's product of CWMP. He would distribute it at the meeting on the 21st. We wouldn't take it up then. We would take it up a week later. It's a special meeting above and beyond our usual schedule, but it's the only thing that keeps us on our own time frame as far as approving something and getting it to the selectmen in early July.
So it'll be put on the website then also on the same day, on the 21st, or is that?
Is that
I don't know what the last time this happened, it is now 2010, he had what he called a preliminary copy, and it was distributed just to staff and to the advisory group that existed at the time. And so I can only go, it was not on the website. And so that group had a chance to look through and look for major omissions or things that, you know, didn't seem to be correctly presented. And then there was to be the regular draft and then that would be on the website. So it basically gave Stearns and Wheeler at that time a chance to correct anything that was a major error. Because they have asked us to do the executive summary, and we've had these various pieces of the executive summary, the sense has been that they weren't going to put the document together until we had given them everything that was ours, and on the 31st, on this month, we will. So when I specifically asked Nate, could it be, and I gave him a date, and he said, no, I need another week, and that's what led us to the June 21st meeting. He said he could make that deadline.
Okay. So we get on the 21st, and then we discuss on the 28th.
28th.
And then when will it go to? Then the public. Then it'll be posted after that, or and then there'll be a review period for public comment, or.
I would presume so. The presentation to the selectmen, they're going to have a workshop meeting, and that's scheduled for July 9th. And
That's not much time.
No.
Well,
But if you're looking at the executive summary, assuming that, you know, he's going to incorporate as much as the 2 to 3 volumes is already done,
Right.
and then update it, that what you're actually reviewing may be a lot. It should be.
it's a lot less.
Yes, right.
Right. I mean, for those of us who have read the preliminary, then a lot of that is already the same as it was before, because it's simply a review of the work that they did. The executive summary has largely been created by us and voted by us, so we know what that is. So theoretically, there shouldn't be.
Wordsmithing.
There shouldn't be.
So that draft, the older draft, is online. That's the one that's online now.
Yes, that's what's online now. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You
So
can-
then could we ask him just to say what sections were changed, or is that going to be?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously we can ask.
Yeah. I mean, just to make
I
it so
think
that
the
people.
whole, whatever he submits will be new. What probably is not going to be updated per se is volumes 1 and 2. There may be corrections in what's coming in and updates, but I don't think the intent was to go back and republish and re-edit everything in volumes 1 and 2.
I don't think we could even do that.
Well, time and money. Yeah, no, that's. And, you know, it went to what Matt said, that there were some things he wanted corrected, and they said, yeah, that would be, the new information would be folded into the document we get.
That's what he said.
But
And we're going to be doing a workshop with the selectmen. I don't think they'd be adopting it that night by any means.
No,
So that they'd be, the public will see.
Well, I'm just trying to make sure that there's
They'll
enough
see a
time,
presentation by us to the
Right.
selectmen on television,
Yeah.
July 9th. And it'll be available at least for another week for public comment or whatever the selectmen want to do after that. For as long as they want to do it. We deliver it to them on the 9th.
Right.
It's roughly, it's close to 3 weeks from when we receive it to when we're in front of the selectmen. What do you think is a reasonable time?
I'm not talking about us per se, because we get it on the 21st. I'm saying that if it's not available to the public on the 21st, when will they get a chance to
Well,
see
we
it?
don't know that, we don't know that we
on?
won't get it in PDF format, or, I mean,
We can ask him.
I mean, what type of
Yeah.
format, you have to tell them what type of format you want,
but I'm,
Yeah.
Jerry, I mean, they make it up electronically.
of course.
Right.
So,
Good point.
no, they may print something and hand it to us on the 21st to meet their obligation. It may be the 22nd or the 23rd that somebody sits there and has gone through and turns it all into PDFs. As soon as we get it, if we have our person working for us, we can say, load this up to our webpage.
Right.
You know, otherwise,
My only point is I
the
just
vice
want,
chair will be staying up all night, I guess.
I mean, I think the other thing is the real intensive public review is once you submit the draft. I mean, I think we want to notify people up front,
Right.
but I think you may be setting a false expectation if you think in
Oh, that's
2
right.
to 3 weeks it's the same review that it's going to
Yeah,
get
there's actually we should clarify
Right.
that there's
That's right.
that once the draft gets submitted, there's a,
extensive.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's actually a public, are you sure of that, Jerry? That's a public comment period, not just a
Yes.
review
Yes.
period for the
Oh, no,
state.
it's public
Yep,
comment
DEP
period.
has to have a public meeting.
It is a public
Yeah.
meeting,
They-
it's okay.
And they'll come back with all of their ideas about how it's
And then people
inadequate.
that's when the people have to submit written
Yeah.
comments, so DEP can respond to it. So it's a preliminary public comment period, and then there's
Yeah.
the regulatory public comment period, for lack of a better.
I think we should point out that we are covered periodically by the press, and that all of these meetings are taped. So it's not like the public hasn't had an opportunity to be aware of what's going on. And each section that we have prepared has been a discussion of this board down to the wordsmithing we saw tonight. So you basically have a vote. So that I don't think the document that comes out is going to have any surprises in it.
Makes for scintillating television.
Yes, well,
That's right.
it's tedious, but it's necessary.
All right. Well, the issue before us is, do we want to add June 28th for reviewing and voting on the draft CWMP?
I would volunteer a motion to the chair that we schedule a meeting for June 28th.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. It can't be here
Right.
unless the CPC is not meeting that night.
Good point. Where?
We will have to figure out where we're going to meet.
Okay, it's been made and seconded. A motion has been made and seconded to add June 28th to our already fat calendar of meetings.
Does Nate know when he's supposed to be here? The 21st?
21st.
Oh, yes.
I just,
31st of this month, he's making a presentation.
you want to just send me something or send it to Nate so he'll know?
Does he need to be here on the 21st, or
No,
does
just
we
deliver
have
it.
to, we just have to have the reports on the 21st?
Well, he wants to come for the alternative presentation, so he was going to come there.
Right.
But the deliverables, he knows
Right.
that
He
what's
knows.
deliverable on the
Yeah,
21st.
Fine.
that was an email conversation.
Okay, I
But-
remember the emails, I just don't keep track of all the dates anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
Right.
Through the chair, I guess, to Virginia. I mean, does Nate need to be here on the 21st, or does he just have to get it in
No,
front of us?
I think that's a good point. If
He's
he-
coming anyways.
It's coming.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, we're just, in terms of what we're asking
Right.
for. And then I would suggest that if we're gonna just have a conversation on June 28th,
That's,
that may be the more beneficial meeting
That
for
is
him
the-
to
Right, he
to
should
be.
definitely be here
That's,
for that one.
right, that's the
Right.
night we paint.
So you could check with him, Jerry, whether he wants to be here or not on the 21st.
it will, because it's the alternative collection system discussion, and it folds into,
Right.
Fine. Okay, well, it's been motion made and seconded to have a special meeting on the 28th for the sole purpose of reviewing the draft CWMP that was
We didn't vote
going to
yet.
be presented on the 21st. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we can do that.
Did we do K?
No, we skipped over K. We talked, partly because it's late,
Okay.
partly because it could be lengthy, but
No, I don't think
since you're here and
I
we
mean, the
should
process
you
is
should talk about it.
that, you know, once we have the RFPs, the town manager is the procurement officer.
Right.
He will appoint, whether it's 3 or 5 people, and I'm sure that whoever you recommend, and there'll be several different review committees. There's a formal process we will go through. There'll be rating sheets. People will have to rate and justify their score. That score will be collected and given to, probably with a recommendation of priority order, who the best qualified firms are, that will be given to the procurement officer, which is the town manager. At that point, he opens the cost number for the best qualified firm. If we can't negotiate a price that we think is agreeable with the best qualified firm, and I've been told it usually doesn't go to the next best qualified firm. And he could come down to 1 or 2 recommendations, and then it would be whether he will forward 2 or 1 consultant to this board for evaluation, and then together with this board's evaluation and his recommendation, it will go to the selectmen. And it's...
I just wanted a rough idea of the time, a date, guess at a date. When will it be advertised?
I've got an issue of if they're all going out at once, if we're gonna stagger them. I can't handle putting 4 RFPs out on the same week. I'm trying to establish an electronic process that they use in Nantucket and Barnstable, where we put the RFP online. If someone wants to download it, they fill out name, rank, serial number. They download it, we have their information. As questions come in for clarifications, we can send it out with a group email. The other process is more, and we'll have the technical coordinator a little bit more administratively heavy. People write us a letter, say, send me a copy of your RFP. We send the RFP out, and then we have to record name, rank, serial number. So as the questions come in, we answer everybody at the same time with the same answer. And then there's a question of, I know you had said you want to set up a tour. We could have what's the term? Pre-bid opening
pre-bid
informational
conference.
meetings.
Pre-proposal.
Pre-proposal. It may not be needed for all, but it's probably recommended. So as soon as we get all this together, then we'll go out. I mean, you may want to consider which RFP has priority, or if you say they all go out together, we work that in.
Okay, well, we'll take that up.
So are you saying July 1st, September 1st?
I don't know, I'm not saying anything. I think depending on who we hire, depending on how fast I think we have the RFPs pretty well down. It's,
How does the DPW normally put out an RFP, Jerry? Do they have to,
The-
they have to go to the central register,
Right.
advertise it? So how does that get done? I mean,
manual.
if there was a highway paving
Yep.
project, how does
people call up and we...
No. Does somebody in the highway department do it?
Someone in the DPW does it, right?
So somebody in the DPW does it?
But if it's a highway project, it's probably John Lyons and the administrative staff up front.
So are these considered wastewater related projects?
I think so far.
Okay.
I think they're all gonna fall on me, because I don't think the Shellfish warden has the time, and I don't think the stormwater person on staff has the time. So I am the lead right now on all of them, and if I'm the lead on all of them, I have to be able to, I can efficiently manage them if they all go out the same day.
Well, right now you have 3. You have Oyster Pond,
Right.
Permeable Reactive Barrier,
Barriers.
and the Shellfish.
And what about stormwater?
Well, you don't have it
I
yet.
imagine
No, we don't have it,
Right.
but is it?
You've got 3 that the selectmen have okayed.
You have
That's
3,
right.
so,
Well, the Shellfish should have the priority. Right? That's
Absolutely.
the time-sensitive one.
yes,
Okay,
And I would volunteer that the Oyster Pond could be the last one.
okay.
okay.
Yep.
Does this committee need to speak to somebody on your behalf, Jerry, to let them know that we're looking at you to do this so that it gets done?
We've had that discussion.
Okay. Good. Okay, any further comments or questions about that?
No, I'm assuming Eric is the lead on any minor refinements, when it goes to Julian. He's the procurement officer. I don't think he's gonna have significant say on the technical matters. I've never gone through a full-fledged procurement with him. Eric and I went through this process with him, and he and Heather liked the concept.
Yeah, I think we learned in the slot where we got this technical part-time person that the process does not end with us.
Right.
It doesn't end with the selectmen.
No.
I mean, even after that, the town manager has to consult with the town attorney, the personnel director. I mean, there's all kinds of people who weigh in to make sure that the end product meets all the rules the town has to follow. So these will be like that.
But Shellfish is number 1, and PRB is number 2, and Oyster's number 3.
Great, great.
Oyster Pond.
Oyster Pond.
Right.
Right. And the MOU is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Could someone send it to me so I can get it through the review process, so we can, I've lost track of where it is, I know it's done.
know
George sent several revisions. I can send you the most recent that incorporated the various changes that everybody put in
I would
into
like the
that.
final,
Right.
I mean, you know,
Well, I
I
think
mean,
that
It'd be
is
nice
the
to have
final.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, the
Yeah.
final one.
the final version.
Okay,
Right.
we can make sure he
Okay.
gets
Track it down.
We'll track it down.
Right.
Have a note.
Okay, review and approve minutes of the previous meeting. Everybody received the minutes and the
Yep.
emails. One suggestion that Ron had was that his substitution language be incorporated as a whole in the minutes. Is that what
Yeah,
you-
that was
what
right.
you were suggesting?
You're asking that it be attached to the
Attached,
minutes.
Or
yeah.
attached, okay. Is there any objection to that?
No.
Okay, we can do that. Any other,
I just, oh, go ahead, sorry. A couple things.
you have others? Okay, go ahead.
Couple of small things. One is that on the, on page 2, on the discussion about the Oyster Pond, Little Pond water, sewer shed here, it says. The last line before the motion, I think what I said was a qualitative and quantitative comparative analysis of alternatives, not just qualitative and quantitative analysis. So I'd like comparative analysis of alternatives. Put in, that's on the second page.
So you're adding the words of alternatives?
No,
Comparative?
Qualitative and quantitative
You got it?
comparative. Oh, she's got it, okay. And the only other thing is, I just have a question because I didn't understand something. And that is, there's, where is it? Sorry.
Qualitative and quantitative are already there.
No, those are fine. I'm adding
Comparative.
comparative analysis of alternatives.
Oh, a
analysis.
comparative.
Yeah, right.
I see.
The details will be tended to if we decide, oh, I see, tended to. Okay, that means we'll deal with, okay, we decide the two are there. Okay, the details will be tended to. Okay, I understand. Okay, fine. I didn't know, maybe I misread that, and that's it.
Okay, any further amendments?
Nope.
Okay, motion to adopt them as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye, opposed? Got it. Okay, they're done. Correspondence?
I mailed around the notice to folks of some,
Faces, C-Rise.
yeah, there was-
Jeff Williams, not Jeff?
yeah, I sent, there's an article in the Faces newsletter about
Right.
the climate change, and the climate change will have an impact.
Yeah.
That's just for information, there's really nothing.
That's a rough draft, just
Yeah,
for
that's
everybody's
just- that's just
information.
Kicking around.
And
And I also sent a notice around to everybody for something that was happening, I think yesterday or whatever.
Tomorrow.
Got on short notice, and then there's something, might be something else.
Mr. Knowles, I mean, the ex-commissioner's father,
oh, yeah, Frank Bowles,
Bowles, that's tomorrow, isn't it?
tomorrow at 10:30.
That's not a quorum.
That's
No,
not
it's
a,
an
it's not a,
information
it's not a meeting, it's not a quorum, it's a
It's just,
in-
it's, yeah.
informational
it's an
gathering
information.
session
Right.
with somebody who knows something.
And it's, for anyone who wants to be there, it's in the town hall. Is it the little?
No, it's not for anyone who wants to be there.
Oh.
It's not a public meeting.
Not a public meeting. Oh, okay. All right.
I want to thank the committee for its indulgence in this week. We were not at our best as far as getting everything out at the same time in a comprehensive manner. Frankly, a lot of it was because things came to us at different times, and it was not our best performance, but we
You
will.
can think it's tricky now, Eric, wait till we have a meeting 1 week after the preceding meeting.
I'm counting on the vice chair to
Pick up the pace, okay.
to handle
I hear
it even more efficiently than you have in the past. Any further business to come before the meeting before we adjourn?
Will we adjourn?
Any comments from the public that
Oh, that's right.
hasn't been heard from or would like to be heard from? once again, my thanks to Carol, and motion to adjourn is gratefully accepted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We got it. Thank you.